All right. What's going on? My name is Tim. I'm one of the founders here at Scary Good Marketing, and we're going live now here on Facebook. And mainly, if you are part of the Flash Film Academy members, all that kind of stuff, we are going to essentially be taking that over today. Ty is unable to host a live because everything that's going on in Texas, everything being really crazy and whatnot. So we are going to essentially be taking over the live. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I am going to post the invite link so that you can jump on and we can start having a conversation, that kind of stuff, like we normally do. Now, this is normally for gold members only, but because of everything going on today, I'm pretty much just going to let anybody on today. So you can come on. That should be the link there in the chat. So yeah, and the big thing that I want to really talk to you about today is how to get more essentially meetings booked from your website traffic. Because if you already have website traffic coming, you have that kind of stuff, how do you actually now optimize for those kinds of conversions, right? So that's what I want to talk about today. Like I said, we're going to look at and talk about a lot of things. So like I said, we're just going to give it a little bit here to let everybody kind of jump on. Like I said, I know everything's kind of a little bit different today, so see how everything goes. But really the big thing is, and talking with some people in the community, that kind of stuff, a lot of you guys are either getting traffic currently to your website, but having a hard time getting people to actually sign up and book a time with you. Because if you're not getting people to book a time with you, then it doesn't really matter how much traffic you have going to your website if none of them are really converting. So we want to really optimize for that in your website, because the big thing is when it comes to your website is figuring out what can you give somebody before they leave. Because if you go and you look at your bounce rate, that kind of stuff, if you have a high bounce rate, that means that people are going to your site and they're not really seeing the information that they want, and they're not essentially converting over. So that's why website copy is really a big key thing, because even though if you have good SEO, you have that kind of stuff, if your messaging, essentially the copy, the words that are on your website don't convince somebody to go and take a specific action, then that's really what's hurting you the most. So with that being said, website copy is always something that you want to consistently be testing, trying different things out. And that's why it's really important when you have your niche, your industry, whoever it is that you're targeting, that you're able to go and talk specifically to those people. So like I said, that's why you want to make sure that, for instance, right, like if we are talking and we want to work with more restaurants, we want to make sure that the things on our website, the words, the images, everything are talking specifically to the restaurant industry. And that's why if you're kind of doing all kinds of stuff, you're doing everything, your conversions aren't going to be as high, right? Because if a dentist went and all they see is stuff about restaurants, that messaging doesn't connect with them. They don't really see how it's relevant. They don't see any of that. So you want to make sure that you're doing that. Now, of course, I know one of the big things is a lot of people ask, what happens if you are in maybe a few different niches, right? Let's say that you're doing some stuff with dentists and you're doing some stuff with restaurants. Then what I would recommend is getting individual landing pages created so that when you're talking to a dentist, you can send them to a link that is a page that specifically talks about dentists, right? The dentist clients that you have, what you're kind of doing with those clients. That way, when they go there, it makes a lot more sense, and they're not kind of seeing a mix of dentistry, restaurants, any of those things. So yeah, that's the big thing, is I think that having a good landing page with those things is going to make a big difference. Now, of course, there's all kinds of different landing page builders out there. And honestly, if you have a website, one of the best things you can do is either set up maybe a subdomain. So it could be like restaurants.scarygoodmarketing.com or dentist.scarygoodmarketing.com, right? So you can kind of do that, or even just have a page that is specifically designed for those clients, and it doesn't really link anywhere else. Like it could maybe link to, you know, where they can go to book an appointment with you, but you don't want to have like a whole bunch of navigation. You don't want to have a bunch of that. You just want it to specifically talk to that specific client that you're looking at getting. So like I said, there's at least a few things there. I also think that you really want to try and come up with some kind of a lead magnet. Now, if you don't know what a lead magnet is, essentially a lead magnet is something that you give to somebody for free in exchange for their name and an email address, normally at the very least. So the reason you want to do this is because it allows you to consistently follow up with that client, and is kind of almost like your last ditch effort in providing value to that client. Because sometimes, like I said, if they're maybe price shopping, they're doing any of that kind of stuff, you don't just want them to leave and not get anything. So that's why, like I said, you'll see these sometimes as pop-ups. Sometimes you'll have them just on the website as you're scrolling through. And I think that having them in multiple places throughout makes a big difference, because, like I said, you just give that potential client a few opportunities to really connect with you, understand more about what you do. And the thing is, with these lead magnets, you want them to be something that they find valuable, right? So there's a whole bunch of examples out there. I'll give you the example that we have on our website. So a lot of our clients always ask about Facebook advertising, right? Facebook advertising is one of the main services that we offer. And the last thing that we want to do is have somebody go to our website, look through some stuff, and then just leave and not really be able to get in contact with them. So as part of our, like, almost like, I don't want to say last ditch effort, but one of the last things that they'll see before they leave our website is a little pop-up that essentially asks them if they would like to get our Facebook ad cheat sheet. Now, this cheat sheet is something that we use internally. So anytime that we're creating an ad, we go through this cheat sheet to make sure that we have these 8 elements of a high converting Facebook ad. So we go through, we look at the ad, and we check them off to make sure that we try and put as many of those elements in an ad, because we know that the more of those elements you have, the more likely your ad is going to be higher, is going to drive higher conversions. So if you're somebody that's looking to either start your Facebook advertising or improve your Facebook advertising, that is something that you're going to find valuable. Now, of course, there's all kinds of things that you can do. Like, you can have different lead magnets on different pages. right? If somebody looks at a specific service, you can have a lead magnet designed specifically around that same service. It doesn't have to just be one lead magnet for everything. So, of course, that's a little bit more advanced, but if you don't have a lead magnet, that's really the thing that you want to start looking at, start crafting, and really start figuring out what you can offer as something of value to your target customer, right? Because like what a dentist finds valuable is different than a chiropractor, that's different than a restaurant. And the best thing that you can do to figure out how to craft these lead magnets is really to go and with your beta clients, right? Ty talks a lot about going and getting beta clients, doing that kind of stuff, and really go and find your beta client. And when you're talking with a beta client, just ask them certain things, like what are a few things that you wish that you would have known about doing video content, right? And when they list those things out, figure out how can you put that in a cheat sheet, a downloadable blueprint, a document, whatever you want to call it. That way, if they find that information very, very useful, then when you give that away to somebody for free on your website that's looking to hire somebody, they're a lot more likely to remember you. You can follow up with them. You can tell them more about what you have to offer, how you're maybe different, that kind of stuff through email automation. And it makes a big difference. And I think that this is definitely one of the things that a lot of content creators and just websites, businesses in general don't ever really think about, because I feel like regardless of what you're selling, whether it's a product or service, any of that, you can always find some kind of a lead magnet. And like I said, that's really what you want, is you want now a more consistent way to follow up with them, consistently be in their inbox, consistently show up. That way, whenever they're price shopping, they're kind of looking at a few other things. Since you've already given them so much more knowledge, you've kind of pointed them in the right direction, and you haven't even started working with you yet. They just feel a lot better about working with you. You're able to kind of show them some things and get them thinking about things. And you'd be surprised how many times when we've gotten on a meeting, any of that stuff, and somebody has downloaded a cheat sheet, a checklist, a blueprint, any of those things that we have, and they are just, when we get on a call with them, they're just so impressed by all of the stuff that was in there. It was a lot more information than some of the other people that they even worked with in the past. And like I said, to me, it's very underutilized. Like I said, in my world of marketing and advertising, I see it all the time. But for the average business, you don't see it as much. So I definitely think that that's one of the big things when it comes to helping with conversions on the website, because like I said, you just need a more consistent way to follow up with those people that are interested, right? Because if somebody visits your website, they are looking for what you have to offer. It's very rare that somebody just Googles something and clicks on a website and is like, I was looking for, I don't know, a dog trainer, and then I landed on your video production company. Now, unless you go and are essentially looking at getting SEO work done to show up for dog training, then you may have a mismatch of your SEO and your market and that kind of stuff. But realistically, like, everybody that is clicking on your website has an idea, knows a little bit about what you do. They're not just finding you by accident. So that's really the the big thing there. And you just want to, like I said, really understand that concept, right? Start crafting it, start doing that. And like I said, the best way is talk to your beta clients and work with it. Work with them in creating this lead magnet. And once you create it and have it, like, go and give it to them, have them kind of look through it, give you any feedback on it. And then the other thing is really coming up with like a good name for it, right? You should name it something related to your business, put your logos in it, that kind of stuff. That way it continues to build your brand as time goes on. That way, when somebody references it, they look at it, any of that stuff, they consistently see your brand time and time again. And I know that that's something with like our checklist is like a lot of people will print that out and they'll keep it on their desk or they'll hang it up. And anytime they go and they look at it, and there's our brand time and time again. So it's consistently building that brand equity and doing that kind of stuff. And yeah, like I said, it could be as easy. Like I said, our checklist is literally a one-page PDF document. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. It doesn't have to be anything, it doesn't have to be like 52 pages of whatever. It could be just a few simple PDF pages. So yeah, and like I said, with that, the reason for this is because you want to start building your email list. Now, email lists are really one of the big things, and a lot of people always ask, well, isn't email dead? Like, nobody's really getting emails, nobody's really looking at emails, nobody's really doing any of that. But email is still one of the most effective marketing platforms out there. Now, I will say that this is kind of a double-edged sword, because a lot of people think that email marketing doesn't necessarily work because they're going and doing a cold email outreach where they're going and sending emails to people that have no idea who they are. There is no brand building. There is no nothing, right? These people just randomly get an email from you out of the blue. They didn't even know who you were. They don't even know what business you have. They don't know what product or service you sell. And I think that a lot of people look at that and see that emails just don't work, right? They send out a bunch of emails, they send out 100 emails, and they get 0 responses. But the thing is if that's what you're basing email off of, that's not really a good gauge, right? Cold email is very difficult. It can work, but you have to be very careful because it can really damage your brand's reputation. It can put a bad taste in some people's mouths, and you kind of have to weigh the pros and cons of cold outreach. But now if somebody visits your website and they see, hey, download our free XYZ thing, and they give you their email, there's somewhat of trust built there, right? They already kind of know who you are. You've told them that you're going to be sending them an email, and it's really it's not like cold outreach, right? They have at least an idea of who you are, what you have to offer, that kind of stuff. So if you do that, and as long as you're not like emailing that person 3 times a day, you'll be okay, right? But you want to also not just send them one email, right? Because I see this a lot too, where I can go to somebody's website, they have, like a little lead magnet or whatever, put my info in, get the thing, and then I never see their stuff again. And I know, like, right now for us, like, we're going through and we're revamping all of our email. We're going through, changing out some automations, doing that kind of stuff, because we used to use MailChimp was what we used to use. Now we're using Moosend. Moosend I actually enjoy a lot better. Automations are a little bit better. So I highly recommend, if you are looking at getting an email marketing system, I highly recommend going with Moosend. So what I'll go ahead and do is let me grab a link here for you. So here is a link to check out Moosend. Like I said, we have a video coming out soon comparing MailChimp and Moosend. Like I said, a lot of people know MailChimp. If you have MailChimp, definitely I would suggest checking out Moosend. Like I said, in my opinion, I just like the automations a little bit better, and it just, the overall layout and the flow of everything to me just works better and a little bit more seamlessly than MailChimp. Now, of course, MailChimp has been around for a really long time, and they do have a free plan, but Moosend actually also has a free plan. I believe it is 1,000 subscribers that you can email unlimitedly for free. You know, once you hit over 1,000, it's very, very affordable. I can't remember all of the pricing, but definitely go check out the link to Moosend if you are wanting to get an email marketing automation set up. And like I said, if you don't have anything, I highly, highly recommend you do so, just because, like I said, you want to continuously follow up. So now with that, with the follow-up, what are kind of those things that you should be sending the client, right? Well, obviously, number one is actually send them the thing that they opted in for. So actually send them your lead magnet. And there's kind of a few ways to do it, but really the way that we do it is we just automatically send it to their email through automation. And once we have sent that, then what we do is we like to send a follow-up email within maybe, you know, it could be anywhere from like 15 to 30 minutes to an hour. We just like to send a follow-up email just saying, hey, you know, we saw that you downloaded our cheat sheet. Thanks so much. We hope that, you know, you get really valuable information. And then they're going to go into an automated email sequence. But we tell them that hey, you know, obviously, if you're looking at this thing or you're doing whatever, you are interested in Facebook advertising. In our case, right? You are interested in Facebook advertising. So here are kind of some of the things about Facebook advertising that maybe we get common questions about all the time. So we'll go through, and like the first one will say, you know, a lot of our clients ask us like, or we'll say like, oh, well, my targeting or my demographic or my customer base is not on Facebook. And then we'll explain why that is not true, right? We'll show them like, oh, well, from the data that Facebook has from, you know, 2000 and 2020, here are the demographics, you know. So unless you have a customer that is not within these things, then yes, your customer probably isn't on there. But if your customer is somewhere in any of those demographics, then they are definitely part of the targeting that we can target on Facebook. So we educate them a little bit. And then at the end of that email, just like in any good show, we leave a cliffhanger, right? So we have a cliffhanger, and essentially what we do then is we tell them, oh, you know, and if you think that your audience isn't XYZ, whatever, well, here's one other thing that I want to show you in tomorrow's email. So they already know that they're going to get an email, and they're excited to get that email. And what we're doing is we're going to keep doing that for however long your sales process needs to be, right? So for us, like I said, right now we're experimenting with like 4 emails. And then we're going to start doing a little bit more consistent emails throughout the time. So that's really the big thing is understanding that and getting those emails together, right? And the thing is like, if you're not very good at writing emails, like I am not very good. Hey, what's going on, Rodney? I actually put the link, I can repost it to jump on if you would like. Let me see here. The guest link is in the chat, but here, I will repost the guest link if you want to jump on. But yeah, so that's really like the big thing there is understanding that. And like I said, I know that emails are not always the easiest. They're not whatever. And like I said, I'm super dyslexic, so writing, spelling, all of that is not my forte. But once you kind of have these emails, you can start going, and with automation, you don't have to worry about always like sending them out. Once they're written, you're pretty much ready to go, right? And there's all kinds of different places you can go to have somebody start the writing process. I always recommend, if you are going to hire somebody to do it, have them go through, do the initial writing, and then go through and actually tweak it and put it in the way that you would write it. Because that's the thing, is you want to have that same feeling, right? Because if somebody else writes an email and it doesn't really fit my style, it doesn't fit, you know, who I am, that kind of stuff, then there's kind of that little, it's a bit off. So that's my recommendation there is, is like I said, really just make sure that you get those emails created, you do that kind of stuff. So, all right. Hey, what's going on, Rodney? Let me see here. So, like I said, that's really the big thing with the automation, right? You want to really just, like I said, it just makes it a lot easier because I'm not the kind of person that likes, you know, doing emails all the time, doing that kind of stuff. But once you have those sequences and they go through that, all it's really going to do is just build as much trust as possible. So, what's going on, Rodney?
Not much, but wife and I are both working right now, and she has phone customers, so I can't really talk much. As you can hear her coughing in the background.
No worries, no worries. Definitely, you know, never too late to be on the phone with a client. You know, so I totally get that. But yeah, so yeah, like I said, that's just the thing there is, like I said, really, I can't say it enough, but make sure that you're at least making attempts to get email marketing set up. Like I said, it is a beast in itself, but you want to really have those things because, like I said, it's really cost effective, right? Like comparative to if we were doing, right, like another great way to help get more of the people that are visiting your website to actually book a meeting with you is through retargeting advertising. But the thing is with retargeting advertising, you know, with Facebook in particular, let's just say you're going to have to spend at least $5 a day to retarget the people that visit your website. Now with email marketing, you can send out, you know, 1,000 emails a day, 1,000 times a day for free right now, you know. So that's the thing, is like, it's still so much more cost effective, you know. And for most people that are, you know, starting out or even just smaller businesses, that kind of stuff, like having 1,000 contacts in your email marketing system is, you know, quite a few. Most people don't have that. But like I said, even once you get to like, because like I said, with Moosend, I think that it's like $8 or something like that for like 5,000 contacts that you can email every single day, 2,000 million times a day, you know. So that's the big thing, is it's still so cost effective. And then once you get comfortable or you want to move to retargeting advertising, because retargeting advertising works phenomenally well, you can even just take the customers that you have and the people in your email marketing list and upload those into places like Facebook or Instagram or any of that, and just tell Facebook, I want to show an ad to these people. Just show them this ad. Or where it also gets a little bit more powerful is you can go and you can say, Facebook, all of these people that entered, saying that they wanted my free thing, find me people that are similar to them, similar to their interests, the things that they like, the movies that they watch, the shows that they watch, all those kind of things. Find me people similar to them and show them this ad. So like I said, those are all more advanced things that you can do, but like that's really where the power comes in. And the nice thing is you can take that same list and you can do that in Facebook. You can do that in Pinterest. You can do that on Instagram. You can do it on, I'm sure that TikTok has it. Like all the platforms allow you to take that customer data and import it and be able to use it to show your past, either your customers, people that opted in for something, to really just show you, show them an ad, right? So that's the big thing with that. And it's always funny because if you look at big companies, so like when Elon Musk decided to sell PayPal, right? So whenever he decided to do that, the reason why they paid him so much money is because of the customer database that they had, right? Nobody would have bought PayPal if there wasn't a whole bunch of customers. And they bought everything from customers currently using to people that were interested in using, all of that stuff. And that's really where a company is evaluated, is based on the amount of customers that they have, whether they're pre-existing customers, old customers that they had, or potential customers. So if you're looking at selling your company and you don't have that information, like you can't go and say, yeah, we have 10,000 people on an email list that are interested in what we have to sell, it becomes a lot harder to sell that business because there is no, like, right, they got to see a pipeline of customers that are interested in what you have. And email, like I said, really allows you to do that, right? Because you can consistently collect that kind of stuff. And then I can't remember who it was that said this, but essentially what they said is for every person you have on your email list, that email list should make you $1. So for every person, you should be able to make $1 per month with that email list. Now, of course, you should, if you're growing an email list and you're doing it correctly, it will be a lot more. But on average, a lot of people say, so if you have 1,000 people on an email list, you should be able to make $1,000 a month off of that list. Because if you just sent an email and was like, hey, I have this really amazing thing that aligns with what our product, services, all of that stuff, and you sold it to them for $1, you should be able to make $1,000, right? Which, is not, right? It's not, in my opinion, it's not like rocket science, right? Most people, you could probably sell something for $1. Granted, I don't think that that's necessarily super sustainable, but now you can see, right? Like if you take like what the average video shoot that you do, and if you have 1,000 people on an email list and you can email them every single month, do you think that 1 out of 1,000 people would probably buy one of your services, or you could leverage one of the services that you had? Like I said, if that was just like, oh, we're doing this month, we want to learn how to do better logo animations, and we're going to be doing them at $100 a piece. You email that out to 1,000 people that already know, like, and trust you. Like I said, if you can get 10, that's pretty good, and you didn't have to go and write all kinds of random things and DM people and try and do. You literally sent out one email, So that's really the thing, is it allows you to go and do that, because at the end of the day, you have to you have to make more offers, right? Because if you're not offering your products, you're not offering your services, you're not offering people what you do, how can anybody buy, right? Email is just an easy way to do it that is very cost effective. So, like I said, that's the big thing. Obviously, like I said, circle back to that's why you want to have this lead magnet, some kind of something you can give to people that visit your website for free in exchange for getting their email. Like I said, that's all you're doing is you're just consistently building it, consistently going, and just, like I said, building that relationship, because that's the big thing, right? The more you can help them, the easier it is to close that deal, right? Because like if you download a PDF that I give you that talks about, here's like 5 of the main things to change on your website immediately, and you go and you change those things and you start seeing better results. Well, that was all for free. And then it becomes like, well, imagine if I paid them, what are we going to get if I actually give you money to do that thing? So that's, like I said, the big thing there. So, yeah, I definitely think the most underutilized thing still with a lot of businesses in general and just websites. Like I said, I look at a lot of websites every day. So it's definitely something I don't see a lot of. And I would actually recommend if you have the little sign up for our newsletter thing, any of that, get rid of that and switch that out with a good lead magnet. Because, and this is my opinion, coming from a corporate America background, working in a corporate office with all that kind of stuff, anytime I see newsletter, I think of the crappy little cork board that was in the back office that was news things that we would have to pin up to tell our co-workers and all that kind of stuff. And to me, I just have a really negative connotation when I hear the word newsletter. I just think of information that nobody cares about is really what I think of. So that's why anytime I see that on a website, I never put my email in there because I'm I don't want your weird things that I don't care about. I want something that's going to make a difference in my business or something that I find valuable. Yeah, go ahead.
So how else would you label that? How else would you maybe phrase that terminology or that verbiage?
Yeah, like I said, my big thing is that's why if you go to our website, we don't really have that at all. The thing that we have, like I said, is the lead magnet. So our lead magnet is around Facebook advertising. So I would look at something, because I know that you guys kind of do wedding photography and you guys kind of do some of that, right?
Yeah, then this is typically handles wedding photography. I focus more on the events, videography, and other stuff like that involved in video.
Yeah, so it's twofold. So one is on the photography side, if it's mainly working with bridegroom, that kind of stuff, or like I said, it depends on who you're targeting, right? Because if it's the bride and groom, then I would do something that's a lead magnet that's after working on more than, I don't know, 200,000 wedding shoots, these are 5 mistakes that I see couples make that ruin their photos. Now, if I was somebody looking to buy photos, would that be something that you would be interested in as a couple, right? You're oh, I don't want to make these mistakes on our wedding. That is more valuable in exchange to get that PDF, video, cheat sheet, whatever you want to call it. They give you their name and their email.
So where on the website would you actually place that? Would that be like a pop-up when you initially get to the page, or would it be somewhere like towards the bottom, top, or what have you, or a different location?
So that's a good question. So one is I do it in two ways. One is I would have it as a pop-up when people are exiting. So like an exit intent. So like if somebody's going to click out of your website, it'll pop up as like, this is my last ditch effort to kind of show you something that maybe you didn't see that is valuable to you. So I would do that. Then the second thing that I would do is I would place it, like have like your main selling points and then maybe like some testimonies, and then I would have it maybe somewhere in the middle as people are kind of scrolling. It's one of those things that you can kind of test to kind of see, but that's really the thing, is I think that you want to have it on there as well. I think somewhere on there. I wouldn't necessarily put it at the top because you want to have your main like selling point up there, but as they continue to scroll down, like it's just one of those extra things that they're maybe like, oh, I wasn't really thinking about that, or oh, I wasn't really, XYZ, whatever. And then the same thing for like the events. I would do the same thing. Like, if you work really closely with like event planners or like whatever, like you can even just go to an event planner and be like, hey, like what are like, some of the mistakes that people make when planning an event? Because like the information doesn't always have to be solely what you do. You can kind of put some of your own stuff in there, but if it's like, oh, like one of the main mistakes that people make is that they I don't know, hire outside catering companies that are not XYZ, whatever. I don't know, right? I'm just kind of making it up as I go along. But if you put that in there, because even if somebody finds something valuable, like if you teach somebody something that they don't know, even though it may not be exactly what you do, they still find value in you because you just help them, prevent them from, maybe wasting an extra $1,000 on food, right? And then it just becomes a lot harder for them to not remember you when they make that final decision, because they're like, oh, right, I remember like reading this thing. And the best thing is if you can have a thing that they take with them that they use during that process of making that buying decision. Like I said, then all it is your brand consistently shows up with them all the time. So like I said, with ours is just a single page. It's 8 elements of a high converting Facebook ad, and it's just a checklist. And the goal is that anytime that they are creating a Facebook ad, they're going to pull this checklist out and they're going to check things off. And every time they do that, our brand is there, reminding them who we are, one of the things that we offer, and providing them value every single time that they're doing something. So even if they create the ad and it goes and it starts working really well, we are going to be part of what they remember. It's like, oh, right, if it wasn't for that checklist, my ad may not have been XYZ better, right? So that's the thing, is try to figure out if you can do that. Like I said, that's kind of more of like a ninja trick there. And it doesn't always work, right? Like some things you just can't create to be that way. But this isn't, just something that, we just magically came up with. This has actually been around, I want to say since like I want to say it was like the 30s or the 40s. So one of the, David Ogilvy, he's one of the top advertisers of all time. He was the one that actually came up with this concept. Now it's a little bit different today, obviously, but the thing is like what they did is an example that he created was for Guinness beer. And what they did was in a magazine, they actually had Guinness beer and they showed you pairings of oysters with the different Guinness beers. And it was like a pairing guide, and literally pubs and places would tear that out of a magazine, frame it, and hang it up in their establishments, because customers would ask like, oh, what's a good, like if I want these oysters, like what's a good pairing? they would literally recommend this advertisement to people. And that's really like the power there is like, you know, and like I want to say he did the same thing with, I can't remember if it was Borax or one of the laundry detergents of the time, where it was literally a cheat sheet that came in a magazine that people tore out, and it was how to clean different stains using their product, how to mix it with different things to use it to clean stains. And literally people would hang it in, you know, their washrooms. So every single time they would look at that, they would be like, oh, borax, borax, borax. What did they end up buying was borax, because it built a relationship. It was consistently there. It showed up time and time again. That's why I kind of laughed when the Amazon little go button things came out, because it's the exact same concept. A company can create their own little button that you click and it will auto order that thing for you. Granted, it's not as like elaborate as that, but it's kind of going in those same lines in that kind of same direction. So
Out of curiosity, how often would you change that offer? You know, like, you know, hey, we're going to show you, or, you know, the top 5 mistakes that new brides and grooms make when looking for a photographer versus, you know, the top 5 things you should consider when looking for a wedding venue and things like that. How often would you switch that out?
yeah, so what I would do is, one is, if you had, like I said, if you have past clients or you have beta clients, I would first ask them, like, what are questions that you have just about our process or whatever, and try and figure out if there's a cheat sheet or a guide or something that you can extract from those questions. Because if they have those questions, most likely other people will have those questions. So I would start there. And then as far as changing it out, what I would honestly do is first come up with one, because that will always be the hardest one to kind of, if you've never done this, it will take a little bit of time to do. Create one, put it on there, and just leave it there. But start working on a second version of something that's similar, but kind of a little bit different. And then I would A/B test them. Put them on there, see which one gets more opt-ins. The one that gets more opt-ins, then use that one, remove the other one, and then come up with another one and see if you can beat it. Because that's really the name of the game. Like, I don't know how many times, like, especially in advertising, like if there's an ad that's working really, really well, we're like, okay, well, what happens if we change the headline? Or what happens if instead of using, you know, this background, we switch it out to this? Or maybe we put the end of the video at the beginning. And we'll literally just do those little things. But if you can go from like one video getting 5 opt-ins to one getting 10 opt-ins, that's way better, right? Even if it's getting a little bit more. So what I would do is I would kind of set that up, and I would give it a fair shot. Don't just like set it up, run it for like 2 days, and then pick one, you know. Like I would, you know, and depending on how much traffic and that kind of stuff, I would give it a fair shot. Normally, I would say that you want to try and get at least maybe 100 people to look at it before you kind of change it. And like I said, depending on the website builder and all that kind of stuff, some of them have automated A/B testing. I know, like for our stuff, obviously we build all of our stuff in WordPress. Like there's hundreds of thousands of like plugins and things that we can do that will automatically do those A/B tests. So I can just set it and tell it, show this one 50% of the time, show this one 50% of the time. And then once we hit, you know, 200 people to view it, pick the winner and show that one. And then we can get a notification saying, this is the one that won, this is the one that wasn't good. And then we just keep cycling them. Because like I said, it's one of those things that I feel like, you know, it's just trial and error. So yeah, and like I said, don't also think that you need, you know, a gigantic whatever. And that's why I'm like, you know, if a video makes more sense, do a video. If a PDF download makes more sense, do that. If you have like There's a few places that do like calculators where you can go, like there's like mortgage companies have done this where they're like, oh, calculate your mortgage, like enter your stuff and you fill out your stuff. And then it'll spit out like what your mortgage payment could potentially be. Of course, you'll have to like go through the process, but that is a form of a lead magnet, right? It's giving, like, it's a little bit more tailored. That's a little bit more difficult, but it just needs to be something that your audience is going to find valuable, and then figuring out how do we deliver that. So, now, like I said, because I like to, I don't want to say make things complicated, because I like doing a lot of crazy things. One of the other things that you can do, which works really, really well, is a lot of times when people, like I said, start with the easy stuff and then grow into what I'm going to tell you now, because it takes a little bit of time. You want to kind of test some things, but where you really will start seeing a lot faster results and a lot turnaround is do the same thing, have the lead magnet, because normally what's going to happen now is people are going to opt in for the email, and then you're going to have a little thing that's like, thanks, we sent you your thing, check your email. And that's fine, start with that. But once you kind of have one that's maybe working a little bit better, now you can start building what I call the thank you page offer. Because this right, you want to always be making offers, giving people the opportunity to work with you. So once they've opted in, once they've gotten your thing, then you redirect them to a special page that is where you give them another offer, right? So if that was, right, like in our case, ours was the Facebook cheat sheet. Maybe the thing is like, maybe you're not quite ready to commit to paying somebody or our agency to actually do the advertising on a monthly basis. Maybe you still kind of want to do it yourself. So what we do is you opt in for that, and then immediately after that, you'll go to a thank you page. And then that thank you page, we give you an offer to actually coach you and teach you how to do your own Facebook advertising. And that's what we offer on that page, right? And then we can set up a little video, tell you about it, and be like, hey, while you're waiting for your cheat sheet to be delivered, it takes maybe 5-10 minutes to get to your email. We made this quick video, and I want to share with you, 6 different things that you really want to make sure you get right when you're doing Facebook advertising, because if you don't, the likelihood of getting your Facebook account shut down is like 92%. And now most of these are actually true, because Facebook is very, after all of the Cambridge break and all that, all the craziness, they have to be a lot more strict on advertisers. So if you don't do it right, you can lose your Facebook account, and then you can never run ads. You can never do any of that stuff. So if that is you, you want to watch that video, right? That's super valuable. You don't want to jack stuff up. And then at the end, essentially, we sell you on, we'll coach you in running and doing your own Facebook advertising. Instead of hiring us, we'll just teach you how to do it. And then once you get to a point where you don't have time anymore, then we can take it over and do it for you. So that's kind of, like I said, that's kind of where that goes. And you can kind of do the same thing, right? I don't necessarily think you have to have like, oh, let me show you how to, like in your case, let me show you how to take your own engagement photos, right? You don't need to do that. But you want to have something that's there, right? And maybe that's kind of like what I'd say is you want to have some kind of gateway product, what's going to get them in the door that you can deliver quickly, efficiently, and really just give them the experience of working with you. You essentially can just inject that into that part right there. And like I said, you'll most likely see more conversions. You'll have more people that'll book with you, get on a call, do that kind of stuff. Now, like I said, all of these are going to help with that. You just have to start getting it set up. And like I said, it's not, Unfortunately, we can't just snap our fingers and have it done. But um, that's the big thing is making sure that you're at least taking the steps to kind of do it. And like I said, just start in small steps, right? At the beginning, I think all you need is a lead magnet and to have a way to collect people's emails and then to automatically give them that thing, right? That's because once you have that, then you can start working on everything else. Don't just try and tackle everything all at once, because it can be very overwhelming if it's your first time setting up these kinds of things, right? Like for us, we literally do it like every day. So, it's a little bit different.
I was double checking Squarespace because that's what we have our web hosting and everything through. So I do see that they have under their marketing section, they got marketing basics, advertising, and then pop-ups and announcements. Add an announcement bar or a mobile informational bar, creating a promotional pop-up.
Mhm.
So I can probably go through there, and they give you different options about advertising a sale or a discount code and a bunch of other stuff. So I don't see how it shouldn't be too hard to do that. It's just now we have to look at getting something like MailChimp or whatever, a place where we can actually house all those email addresses. Because we got a few in our payment processors and all that. We've got information there, but not a way to. Well, I shouldn't say that, because some of them do give you the option to be able to send out marketing emails and things like that. But I don't know. So let me ask you this: have you worked with Square, the processor?
I have not worked. So, the payment processor.
Yeah,
I've done a little bit in Square. Like I kind of know some of the stuff. I know that they do have kind of whatever their marketing automation. It's been a while. I'm not going to say that I don't like Square. I think that they have a lot to offer. To me, sometimes I feel like there's too much in there is my thing. And I'm like, dang, I don't even know, whatever. I know that they do have some stuff. Now, the one thing I do have to say that is very handy with Square is, even if I go and I make a payment with you, if I have made any payment on Square before, it's going to automatically pull all of my data from the first, which I think is fantastic. To me, I think it's fantastic. Now, as far as all of that goes, one is what I would do is I would just kind of look at, because I'm pretty sure you can download the customer data. I don't see why you wouldn't be able to. That's what I would do. Download it, get it uploaded into another email marketing system. So I'm going to post in the chat the one that I recommend, which is Moosend.
Okay.
All these random company names.
I was going to even ask you about Honeybook, because that's what we pretty much have almost everything through. They do work pretty well in the process on how they kind of, how they kind of carry you and the client through the process and being able to send the contracts and everything over. It has definitely made things so much easier. I just haven't used their email marketing, if they have one or not. But yeah, we'll take a look at Moosend and see how that works. Is it pretty fairly easy to use and navigate, or?
In my opinion, I think it's a lot easier than MailChimp. Originally, like I said, we used to do a lot in MailChimp. I used to recommend MailChimp all the time. Over the years, I feel like MailChimp has just gotten more difficult. I feel like they have odd naming conventions of things, and it's not, I don't know, at least in my opinion, I don't think it's as easy to navigate. Maybe I'm just technically challenged in it, I don't know. But like I said, to me, the thing with don't get me wrong, in Moosend, there is a lot of stuff in there, but I feel just the layout and how they name things, it's a little bit more clear. I feel like MailChimp now is kind of it's a little bit more what I call artsy fartsy. Like they have these kind of like weird images and they always want to name things, these like odd things sometimes that to me, I'm like, it's just not always that apparent of how to do something, and something that I feel like would be very easy. I have to like dig into like 10,000 menus somewhere just to find. And to me, I'm like, I just don't like that. Like, I just want to be like, this is what I need. This is what I need. Like, let me put these things in here. And the other thing that I like with Mooseend is, so they do have 1,000 less people that you can have on a free account. So theirs is 1,000. MailChimp is 2,000. In my opinion, it doesn't. Where the big difference is MailChimp doesn't really allow you to do automations as easy, if at all, on a free account. So if you want to do any automations, I'm pretty sure you have to pay. Where Mooseend, even though you have just 1,000, they pretty much give you, you can do all the automations you want. And the thing that I also like, is, which we're kind of digging into a little bit more now, which like I said is way more advanced, way more crazy, but the other big thing that I like, and I'm pretty sure MailChimp has it, I just can't find it, but they have where with Mooseend, you can integrate it with your website. I don't know all the websites that they have to integrate with, but if your website can integrate with it, it can actually do website tracking. So like, let's say that somebody goes and they look at a specific page. So like on our website, if somebody goes and looks at website design, I can actually, one is if they're already in our email marketing system. So if they've already opted in, I can actually automatically send them an email if maybe they looked at our website page and then they left. I can send them an email and be like, hey, you know, I saw that you were checking out our website stuff, or I could even just be like, send them an email and like, hey, you know, we've recently got a question about websites, and I wanted to share with you 5 things that kill conversions on your website. And now they're like, I was just looking at websites, and now I'm getting any, like, that's how some of those things happen. You know, but
stalker.
Yeah. So that's the thing, is you're able to serve relevant emails based on what people have looked at on your website, if they are, obviously, they've given you their email. Now, if they haven't done that, then it can't track it. Like I said, I don't know how well all of that does, but they do have all of that in there. And like I said, that's something that we're going through and like testing and learning and trying to figure out like what works the best. But yeah, so that's something that I'm kind of excited about, if it works the way that I am hoping it's going to work, the way that they say that it works. But yeah, I mean, it's really easy in my opinion. And the nice thing is it's actually a lot cheaper. Like once you actually get into a paid account, it's a lot cheaper than MailChimp. So yeah, that's really the big thing there. But yeah, I don't really have a lot of negative things to say about Mooseend, but we are, like I said, we are coming out with a video comparing Mooseend and MailChimp, because like I said, MailChimp is what we used to have. So that's going to be coming out on the channel soon. Like I said, as we continue to backlog some videos before we start posting again, but that one is coming because I get a lot of questions about what email marketing platforms to use and whatnot. So,
hey, so non-related question, well, semi-related to what you just said, but not necessarily to the topic of what you're doing tonight. Which one? I just want to say thank you very, very much for filling in, and that's what a team's about, dude. So thank you very much for doing that. Just out of curiosity, I'm aware a little bit of your quote unquote team per se in operation from just some of the conversations we've had. But just out of curiosity, do you have somebody that actually that you either contract out or outsource to or whatever that does the content that you do on YouTube and all that? Or do you do that like yourself and your partner, just between the two of you?
Yeah, so we used to. So we used to have a contractor that we had that actually would come. He would shoot the videos. Granted, we have all the equipment. He would just come, make sure that everything's like set up the way that it needs to be, do that kind of stuff. We did have somebody. We kind of worked on a little bit of a basis. Right now, I'm the one that's doing all of it, just because of one, with like COVID and all that stuff. Like us as a company, like we did get hit pretty hard. Like we did have quite a few clients that, just were like, we can't do anything right now. So we had to like cut expenses where we needed to in that sense. So like right now, a lot of the contractors that we do have or we use are more on client facing stuff, where like internal stuff, like I'm pretty much right now, I'm the one that's doing all of it. So, so it's just one of those things that it is what it is. Granted, I have been a video editor for over 15 years. So like, to me, video editing is not difficult. Granted, I do get burnt out on doing it because it's just like anything when you're doing it all the time. But yeah, it is definitely something that we will probably get back into once I feel like we're at least in a little bit better place to kind of ramp up some more of that stuff. But yeah, granted, I will throw it out as a warning. I am, to a degree, a little bit particular about certain things and the way that things are. But like I said, that comes with, because I've been editing for so freaking long that, but I am very much so, like the big thing is like a lot of the stuff that we do, and because I do a lot of motion design work, like motion graphics, that kind of stuff, I'm actually trying to learn how to do 3D animation. So that's like a side thing that I'm trying to do, because like with some of our clients, like to me, I'm like, if I can learn how to kind of do it in a way that's profitable for a company, and I can teach somebody else those processes without having to know the entire gamut of 3D animation, of like needing to hire somebody that can work on like transformers, like what is like the minimum effectiveness of a 3D animator that we need, then that's something that we're kind of looking at moving into. So it's been interesting. Like I said, I'm always the person that's like, I want to learn all these things. Like I said, I mean, like I'm, as I tell my wife right now, I'm learning the violin. It's more vile right now than anything, but so that's
just wrong, dude. That's wrong.
So that's the thing, is like that's what I'm kind of doing a little bit more of, on some of my free time, which is funny, because I know like one of the things that Ty always is like, oh, and I know that some people last week were like, you guys stay on like this late or whatever, and I'm like, honestly, like throughout the week I'm working till this time, like till almost like 9 o'clock. So I'm like, it's just, this is the one day that I don't do work during that time in the evening, like, So
I feel you. And we're usually up, well, at least, yeah, because I think, she works Thursdays and Fridays as well as I do. But typically working our normal 9 to 5 anyway until midnight. So, I mean, I'm here, as long as I'm doing my job and taking care of my customers, it's not a problem. And then after that, handle business, and go from there. So I don't know if we want to talk about it here or like offline later. I'm just kind of curious as to because I love the 3D too. I haven't done motion. Let me backtrack a little bit. I've dipped my toe and like part of my body into motion and motion design. I was doing some courses with Joey Corman through a School of Motion for a while, because I tried to understand Adobe and all that, and then try to translate that to Apple Motion and how is that, since that's what I typically would use. But as far as the 3D aspect of things, what are you looking at using, or what have you used so far?
So all of the stuff, like I said, right now I do a lot of kind of like 2D animation, a little bit of like it's 3D, but it's not actually. It's still like
It's 2.5D, I think, is what you're looking at.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not like
I've heard of that.
whatever. Yeah, so
Okay.
that's pretty much what I do now a lot of the times because so like I said, we're very I'm very like how do I take something and how do we productize it to sell, right?
Okay.
Right, like if we're doing like logo design or whatever. So I don't know if you know this. I don't know how many people know this or not. I don't know how many people actually look at any of the things on our website half the time. So, but
I'll
we
stop you a
actually
little bit.
yeah, so we have this thing that we kind of rolled out and we're still kind of, I would say kind of in the beta phase, but we have a service that we started offering, which is called the Scary Good Ad Bar. Now it's changing a little bit. We're moving it over and it's going to be the Scary Good Video Ad Bar. And essentially what it is so, since 2016, when we started our agency, we have about 17 different essentially like templatized video ad formats that are proven to sell. Now, these ads are ads that we've created, as well as ads that like big brands use, and like we've studied, we've broken them down, understanding like how to put them together. And with that, that's what we sell. So it's an on-demand service. You go, you pick the ad that you want, you pay for it. We get on a call, talk about the advertising, what the goal is behind the ad, and then we create it. So a lot of those are very like motion graphic heavy.
Okay.
So right, so like some of them may be like, oh, like if we're selling this pen, it may be like, here's the pen, and it comes out and turns, or maybe we have like 3 pens that kind of like it's not a 3D, but it's like it's still motion graphic kind of elements. So with that, pretty much everything that I use is After Effects. So like for the longest time, like I didn't know anything in After Effects. Even whenever I went to film school, like we didn't really have a lot of like that kind of stuff. So to me, I was like, I know that it's something that I want to do. And really, originally, the reason I got into it was because before I started the marketing company, I would go to places like Envato, Marketplace, and look at all of these templates that people would have. And I was like, dang, like this logo template, this guy has sold like 250,000 times, and it's $20. But I'm like, like you do the math. I'm like, okay, so like,
add that up.
Let's just say 10,000, right, and then sell it for $25. I'm like, 250,000 times for something you made once.
Yes.
So like to me, that was always intriguing to me. It was always so intriguing to me. And I was like, if I could just learn how to do, because I'm like, I can learn how to do that. Like I look at it and I'm like, it can't be that hard. Like, look at all these people on here selling these things. Like, so literally all I would do is like get onto YouTube and like go through all of the tutorials and like remake the things, do the things. And then after a while, like you kind of start to understand the things. Granted, I think that there's a lot of software and a lot of stuff out there that makes it way easier to do these things. So like the one that I probably use, and I think that it's only, I know that you have Apple stuff. I can't think of any of the things. Like I said, I haven't used, what the heck is it?
Final Cut? Okay.
Any of that stuff in a long friggin' time, like a long time. But yeah, so like the ones that I use the most is the Red Giant suite. So Red Giant just got bought out by Cinema 4D. So the thing is like, in my opinion, like, because I think Red Giant you can use in.
They got some stuff you can use in Final Cut, and then other things as well.
Obviously, yeah, so I would highly recommend. Like I said, it is a bit expensive. We got the full suite of whatever, but if you are just starting and like trying to do some of the animation, that kind of stuff, they have a really good, I think it's the Universe plugin.
Hmm.
It has a bunch of stuff in it, but in there they actually have pre-built like motion graphic elements. So you can have like logos like spin in and like do those kind of things. And to me, like in certain projects that we do, I'm like, I don't need anything like super fancy. Like I just need like the call to action to pop up on the bottom of a video. But adding those like little details to a video, people will pay way more. And to me, what I like is I can literally just be like, this is the clip, click this animation, and it just adds it on there. And then I can adjust it and tweak it. And I'm not having to go and like keyframe all the things. I mean, I can do that if I want.
It's just tedious work, dude. It's tedious
Yeah.
work. And there's a couple of companies that. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. You're good.
Oh,
Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say there's a couple of companies that I typically go through for some of those things, like the logo animations, templates, and things that make the process a lot more streamlined and efficient. I think would be the best word to use. One of them is Motion VFX. I think they are based out of Poland, but I mean they do high quality stuff. And so when you mentioned 3D, it kind of piqued my curiosity because they have been able to, in a nutshell, allow you to do 3D animation and compositing and everything right within Final Cut. And obviously you can do it in motion as well. So I mean, you got to get one of their plugins or a couple of them to be able to do it. But then you basically just like download, like you can go to like, I think, what is it, like Pixel Squid or something like that or whatever. Get your 3D objects, import them from Blender or whatever the case is, and then boom, you're good. So I was trying to figure out, like, is he using Blender to do 3D? But then you were telling me it's kind of like the 2.5D.
Yeah, so what I'm looking at for the 3D, one is because we just pay for the entire Adobe suite, so we have all the things. So they have, what is it? It's called Dimension. So I've never even heard of it. I look at it all the time, never looked at it or anything, but it's called Dimension, and essentially what it is it's a mock-up 3D generator. So they have pre-built, essentially 3D objects that you can essentially texture. And then
Adobe has this?
Yeah. So it's part of their, like I said, Adobe comes out with all kinds of random stuff all the time that I'm like, Adobe is, I feel like terrible at marketing new products and things. They just put them out and like, hopefully people look at it. I don't know. You know.
I didn't even know, because we got the whole suite too.
Yeah. So it's this thing called Adobe Dimension. And essentially, like I said, it has pre-built like 3D objects, and then you can go in and put your textures on them. So like for us, the big thing is like, right, like a lot of the 3D stuff is more product based, right, that we're doing. So for instance, like they have like coffee bean bags, right? When they have the coffee, you can change out like what it looks like, do the lighting, do some of those things, and whatnot. And you can put the element, like your textures on them, and then you can export those as OBJs. And then what I'm looking at is seeing, like, because I know that After Effects has like a light version of Cinema 4D. So one is I'm going to kind of play around in there because it's already there. See if I can get it the way that I want, and then import it into After Effects. If that doesn't quite work, the other thing that I'm looking at is Video Copilot's 3D Element. Or Element 3D to actually go and bring that in and use those OBJ files from the other from Dimension, and then do the animation work on them.
That makes me.
I have no earthly idea if this is going to work. I literally scoured the internet for like hours this weekend looking to see if anybody is doing this type of workflow, and there's nothing out there. So it is going to be a lot of trial and error, going through kind of learning some of those things. So it could completely not work. I have no idea. Like,
we should definitely chop that up afterwards, like offline at some point. I think I may know of. So you're basically saying being able to imprint or just like stick your brand on some type of 3D object or whatever, and just kind of have it as a template, so to speak. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So
okay.
yeah, it's.
Did I oversimplify it?
I'm not 100% sure how everything's gonna work. Like I said, in my mind, that's how I'm thinking about it, but that doesn't mean that it's gonna actually work that way.
It works perfect right here. It's perfect.
Always. That's why I'm like,
Always.
man, whenever I envision the way that I want to film that thing and like how it's gonna look, it's like, it's perfect. But then I look at it and I'm like, dang, like what happened?
Did I do that?
Right. I don't know if I'm gonna put my logo on that. Oh.
Yeah, we're just gonna put that in trash. We're just gonna categorize that as trash.
Yeah.
Camera died. Car got corrupted. Don't know what happened.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, so that's the big thing is license. So I'm getting into that now. Granted, there's the other thing that I want to do is kind of like the what I'm going to call the fake 3D, where you shoot stuff on the green screen and you kind of do the shots. And I kind of want to go through that process. One is like they have a love-hate relationship with green screen. I feel like over the years I've gotten better, but I've always had like somehow I always end up having to do something green screen, and I'm just like I dread it because I feel like there's a lot of things that can go wrong. Even though like I've done a lot of stuff, like somehow there's always like one clip that gets jacked up and then it takes like 10,000 years to fix, and it just granted, like I said, that's why I was a little worried on the 31 days of Halloween. On the 31st day, I was really worried of how the green screen stuff was going to come out.
It looked great.
Actually, I think we shot blue screen, but I don't know. I can't remember.
Okay.
But granted, I used a lot of the what can I think? The Red Giant stuff to actually do a lot of the compositing, because they have something called Super Comps that allows you to like do layering, and it has all kinds of stuff in there that I was like, and their I think it's Primac here is what their keying software is. That's
what is it
in there? I think it's Primac here. That's part of Red Giant. Hands down, the best green screen, blue screen keyer I've ever used. Like I was like, dang, where was this every green screen project I needed? Because yeah, like it's just crazy. But yeah, it's interesting. So like I said, it's something that I am gonna slowly start diving into. There's a few other like side project things that we're gonna kind of do with our company to, like I said, we do a lot of testing. We do a lot of like, let's go do this weird thing that I heard about this one time and see how that kind of goes. So yeah, it's just interesting. There's a whole bunch of things. Like I said, I mean, I could literally talk for hours on the things, but yeah. So anyway, off of the small animation tangent, like I said.
So
it was funny because it's okay, and it was funny because like I tried to minor in animation, and I was like, "This is way too hard."
Really?
Yeah, like granted, like all the animation classes were like, "All right, now draw this thing," and everyone's over here all crazy. I'm like, I draw my stuff, and they're like, "What is that?" I'm like, "It's supposed to be a stick figure." I'm like,
well, it looks like not a stick figure.
Yeah, so I cannot draw to save my life. Like I said, which is also funny because like as a makeup artist, like a lot of people are like, "Oh, like you could probably sketch and do." I'm like, I can't draw to save my life, and a lot of makeup artists are really good at drawing. I am not.
You just missed that boat. You're like, nah.
Yeah.
Not my cup of tea. Sorry.
Like I said, I can make it look like half your head is chopped off, but I can't draw a stick figure.
Wow.
You know? So,
good to know. Good to know. Good to know. That helps. Thank you.
So, in case you need that in a client project somewhere for something,
I got some thoughts. I can use a half decapitated head. So I will definitely keep you in mind. Yes.
I mean, I definitely think that there is a market for it. If you're doing a lot of like training videos and like, what is it? Like OSHA, whatever kind of things or that kind of stuff. And like I said, actually, where I made some decent money when I was a makeup artist was doing a lot of the simulations for like law enforcement, um, military trainings, and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Yes.
But like I said, I could talk a lot about being a makeup artist too. So
I've heard some of those amazing, awesome, crazy stories. How so? Did you started that while you were here in like locally?
so actually, like I said, I know we're
I
all just
forgot.
going off on all kinds of crazy
Sorry,
things. So
sorry. Oh crap! We got somebody
yeah,
else in the room. Hold on. Wait.
yeah,
When did you
what's
show
going
up?
on?
I
Just
feel so
now.
bad. I feel
Nah,
so bad.
I
I'm sorry.
completely forgot that it was here. I was just like in my zone, just going off, and I'm like, oh yeah. So, yeah.
That's okay. I mean, it's to me, I'm like, it's not that big of a deal. I'm like, I was actually going to be surprised if anybody showed up, just because I'm like, I know that it's like one is it's kind of last minute. Two, it's not the norm, and it's like, wait, where am I going? Whose channel is what, and this, and it is totally fine. That's why I was like, I'll put it out there. If anybody wants to kind of talk about some of the stuff, great. If not, great. I can sit here and talk to myself is totally fine. It's not anything new. um, but yeah. Anyway, Liza, I'll just briefly talk with the makeup stuff. So. I started doing makeup when I went to film school. So I actually went to film school down south in Las Cruces, so at NMSU. And the reason I went there is because at the time they were ranked like 14th in the nation for film schools. And it was as like Albuquerque. I know, I didn't even know that. Granted, I don't know if they're even ranked anymore. I absolutely love the program. They actually have like a whole bunch of equipment. I mean, like we did stuff with like dollies. They have like a 30-foot crane that we use, like all kinds of just like crazy stuff. So I learned a lot there. But the thing is, they didn't have a makeup program. So I was pretty much all self-taught in doing it. Like I said, I'm really good at convincing people to let me do what I want to do. So I convinced a lot of my professors to like still give me credit to actually go and teach myself these things that I wanted to do, and all of them agreed to it. So, and like I said, I
early on, dude. This is my class. I'll show you what I'm going to do, and give me an 8 for it too.
Yeah. So that's the thing is, like I said, I've gotten really good at that, and I think that it all really comes down to because, like I said, I am super dyslexic, so like school was never my thing. So I got really good at convincing teachers and like board members. Like I remember sitting like in high school, like sitting with the school board, telling them what my curriculum was going to be. So like that's like the whole thing is like I have gotten really good at like that kind of stuff. And it's funny because I never really knew how like entrepreneurial I was because like my family is not entrepreneurial at all. They're all like government workers, like get that 9 to 5, like retirement, that kind of stuff. So I'm like the black sheep of the family. But it's totally fine. Like I have no gripes about that. I just couldn't do it. Like that's the big thing. But yeah. So anyway, that's the brief history of my makeup artist time. But yeah. So do you guys have any other questions? Like I said, I want to make sure to answer any questions because I know like to me, I'm like this is a big topic that I can probably spend a long time talking about, and there's a lot of stuff, right? So like I said, the big thing that I just wanted to emphasize is definitely having that lead magnet, having that email follow-up kind of thing. I think that's the easiest and one of the most effective things that you can do for sure.
Since I missed part of it, can you just like recap on kind of what
I can totally do that. Hold on, let me turn up my sound here. Yeah, so the big thing is with with everything is obviously if you have a certain amount of traffic going to your website, I feel like the most underutilized thing is creating that lead magnet. And I know that we kind of talked about this, I think whenever we did the website audit, because I know that you do a lot of like music videos and that kind of stuff, is like creating that lead magnet on like, you know, here's like 5 ways to get your music video seen more, right? Because like having that and having that email automation, right? So the big thing is, I think if you're not using email, start using it. Like I said, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, no, I definitely like that. I even have like a script for that. But I feel like it should be more of like a professional in like a studio. And I think do you think like being in a more professional setting would look better than just like sitting at a desk, kind of just saying it?
I mean, I'm sitting at a desk just saying it. I
I
mean,
guess that's true. And then like I also know that like since I work with more rappers and stuff like that, a lot of them don't really use email. Like, if they do, it's just for sending like songs back and forth, and that's really it. Like a lot of them don't use it, or a lot of them are even on their phone.
yeah, well, my big thing is, so like if they're on their phone, like if email doesn't work, then I would seriously just look at like, does text messaging make more sense? Like, hey, I'll shoot you a text, like that kind of stuff. Of course, you can get into the whole like Facebook Messenger automation, all that kind of, you can do that, and it's very similar to email. It's a lot more technical. My thing is like, I would even just go and look at getting text message marketing, because one is it'll pay for itself. Like text messages are so cheap. And my thing is, I'm like, if it takes, you know, whatever, like I think like, because we offer text message marketing at like a platform and that kind of stuff, it costs 6 cents per text message. Like my thing is, I'm like, if you can just send a text message automated to somebody for 6 cents, and that increases your conversions by, you know, even, you know, 2 to 3% more, like that's going to make a huge difference, right? So, and that's really the big thing. So yeah, just like this right here, right? So, you know, how about their messenger, right? So like I said, Facebook Messenger definitely can work. The big thing though that I always caution people, if you don't know what you're doing, probably don't do it, because the thing is like Facebook will ban you for any little thing that is like out of their thing. And the reason for that is because they have had to go in front of Congress and fight for why they should be able to operate. They had, you know, the Cambridge data breach and all that stuff, even though technically I'm like, it's not their fault, right? Like if a user goes on Facebook and doesn't use the platform according to terms of service, they're breaking the terms of service. Like, and yes, I do agree that Facebook has to have some kind of like something, but the thing is like, if you give them any little reason to ban your account, if they shut down your messenger, you cannot message anybody, not on your personal page, not on your business page. And the thing is the likelihood of you even being able to open a new account and have access to any of that is slim to none. And the thing is Facebook will not essentially reverse that, even if it's a mistake, even if it's whatever, like, and like for us, we have a lot more leeway because we actually, so like we have a Facebook rep. I can get on the phone with like an actual person from Facebook and get accounts reopened. You cannot, because you do not have as much credibility yet. Like for us, like we had to go through like an agency process, right? And like our accounts get monitored all the time. Like I can see how our accounts stack up to other ad agencies. We get a lot of other things. And that's the difference of like doing it yourself and having a partner, right? Because like if your account gets shut down and we're an agency partner, I can probably get on the phone with somebody and figure out why that account got shut down. You can't. You can submit a little thing and hope in like 10,000 years that Facebook messages you back. But the thing is because we've had to submit paperwork and documentation, and our accounts get monitored more often. It depends on how much money you spend on your accounts, right? Like as an agency, like we've spent thousands of dollars with our clients in running ads. So like we have a lot more credibility in what we do. Granted, like all of our information has to be publicly visible. Like there's a lot of stuff that we've had to do. And then the same thing is like every year, like I said, we get evaluated and audited and all that stuff in Facebook. So like they also want to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to do, but because we've gone through these processes, we have more leeway sometimes. Where like what happens is most people will go, they set up an account, they don't fill out all the information. That's why like in our onboarding for our clients, so like if you hire us, like I said, all of our systems are automated. We have like a full client portal that's also like an app on your phone and all kinds of crazy stuff. In there, we have videos telling you exactly how to set up your account properly, because if you don't set it up properly, you're done and we can't do anything for you. You know, so like that's the thing. That's why I'm like, with Messenger, you have to be very careful, because if you just go in there and you're like, I'm just gonna blast out messages, and then you get shut down, then you're screwed. Like I can't help you, nobody can really help you. Like, you know, that's kind of the thing. That's why, like, to me, I think that email, granted, you can still get your email account shut down if you're just blasting out garbage to people all the time, right? Like, it's just like anything. People don't want garbage, so just don't do it. Unless you work for solid waste, that's the only time garbage is okay. You know, so that's the big thing. So text messaging is the same thing. Obviously, you can't just blast out text messages to anybody and whoever and whatnot. You have to be accountable, right? You can't just text people that didn't sign up. You can't do that. All of that is federally illegal, right? That all goes into like canned spam and all that kind of stuff. So, but to me, I'm like, if they don't use email, I would really just look at text messaging, right? Like they can shoot a quick text. You can send them like, here's a link to get, you know, that thing or watch that video or whatever. They do it. It goes to the thing. The same kind of process. And then I would just try and figure out like what's kind of a follow-up that you can do, right? Text is a little bit, I don't want to say more difficult. It's just you have to be careful, right? Like if I sign up for it, I don't all of a sudden want to get like 5 text messages every day from you for like 30 days, right? Like if you do that in an email, like it's not as bad, right? But I don't want you just texting me all hours of the day and night. So really just think about that. So that's kind of what I would do. And like I said, I mean, maybe A/B test it. I don't know, maybe because the same thing as I'm like, if your offer is really, really good, like if it's like, you know, granted, don't just make something up just to get people to do it either. But, you know, like if it's really, really good, like if people are like, dang, like I really want that thing, they will even go out and create an email account for it just to get that thing. Like, you know, not saying that that's ideal, but like that's kind of what you want. You want your lead magnet to be one of those things that like if they don't get it, they're going to be laying in bed at night thinking about them not getting that thing. Like that's how bad you want them to feel about not getting it, because it's like, well, it's free. Like I should have just got that thing. I should have just put my email in, or I should have just whatever. And of course, eventually you want to make sure that your products, your services have that same thing, that when you're selling them, people are like, dang, I should have just paid for that thing. Like it's going to keep me up at night and it's going to haunt my dreams that I didn't just pay you the money to do that thing. And like I said, you will get to that point. But like, to me, I think that starting with like the lead magnets and that kind of stuff gets you really good practice in that. And like what I was talking about earlier is just switch it around. Like think of right, like come up with one and then see if you can make one that's better, right? Think of like, okay, this one's doing really well, and then test them. See which one gets you more opt-ins. See which one gets you more text messages. And then the same thing too, right, is you don't just want to like see which one gets you the most opt-ins. You also want to make sure you're tracking like, okay, like everybody opted in, but right? If you have like 10,000 people that opt in, but none of them want to book a call with you, that's fine. Because like I can go and I can literally be like, hey, send me your email and I'll send you $500 via PayPal. Like, yeah, everyone's gonna effing sign up for that, Like, granted, I mean, we talked about scams last week, so maybe not as many, but some of you would probably still be like, dang, I should have just put my email in, because what if I missed out on $500? What if I, so yeah. So it's one of those things. Like I said, it's all kind of a balancing act. That's why I'm like, don't just like try and take on everything all at once. But like I said, I would test email first. Just kind of see how many people, like I said, obviously you know the market way better than I do. I don't work with that many rappers or whatever. Like I am not their type of people, which is okay. I don't have anything against anybody, but so. But yeah, that's what I would look at. And like I said, I mean, there's a whole bunch of text messaging companies out there. Like I said, we're in the process of debating if we're going to actually offer that as a service where like you can pay us and we give you an account and you go and you can send all. We're still deciding if that's something we want to do. Like I said, we do have another product that has that integrated into it, but it's more for like brick and mortar, that kind of stuff. It's actually a reward and loyalty program that we have built. And like I said, we have a lot of stuff. A lot of you guys only see like that much, but it's because you guys aren't in that market. So I'm like, I don't need to talk to you about it because it doesn't make sense for your business. Even if you wanted it, I wouldn't sell it to you.
What? How do you know? Maybe we want to feel special. Maybe we want to know.
I mean,
discriminated against us. Shoot.
I mean, my thing is I'm like, I feel like I know your business. I mean, if you want it, I mean, my thing is I'm not the kind of person that's just going to sell you something that I don't think is going to work. That's why I'm like, I never sold blogging. Like to me, I'm like, blogging works. I just don't think that it's like if you want to do it, you got to do it on your own time. I don't think that like to me, I'm not going to hire a company to write me blog posts. Like I'm just not, and I'm not going to sell it to you because I would much rather actually do something that's going to get you results faster than like 6 years from now. Not that I'm against like long-term things, but I'm like, as a business, like it's always better to have your money, yesterday or today than in like 6 years from now. So, that's my thing. That's why, like I said, we do a lot of advertising, because I'm like, if you can invest money into advertising, like advertising is the one thing that is going to make your money back faster. Now, does that mean that it's going to work every single effing time? No, unfortunately, no. And I know that that's kind of like whatever, but you'd be surprised at what I hear out of clients' mouths sometimes. I'm just like, I don't know where you're getting that from, but okay. But yeah, but with that, so I guess my question to both of you guys is, what is like one of the big things that you guys are struggling with right now? Because there's some things that are kind of in the works that are kind of on the background that you guys don't see yet, and this is part of that. So I want to kind of just better understand like where are the struggles. Is it more like when you're sitting down with a client, the sales pitch, the sales process? Is it actually getting the clients, like getting that initial meeting? Is it like I'm not too, or is it like everything? I don't know.
Let my boy down there go first. Where's he at? Yeah, right there. Wait, get the fingers right. Wait.
So
yeah, there you go.
I guess in the beginning, it was originally like the process and figuring out what to do, because I originally had people going to a website doing this and this and that, and just figuring out who my target audience was and how they liked getting a video and to make it the quickest possible. But I guess right now, what I'd say I'm really struggling with is showing value first and then just going through like talking to them to get a video. Like, what do I hit first so I can show value and then tell them the price, right? Because a lot of people hit me, how much do you charge? And it's like, okay, well, how am I going to show value first before I do
Yeah.
that? So it's just little stuff like that.
Yeah. So I have a question because this is a video. So obviously the reason I'm in here, this is actually my living room, not my office where we normally shoot. So like I said, we're starting to do more videos. We're starting to do that kind of stuff. And one of the video ideas that I had today, as I was kind of going through one, and I'm just kind of curious, it'll just kind of give me a little bit of a gauge. So like, have you ever just wondered like, what is value? Like, because to me, I was like, I feel like this is a term that is used so often, like, oh, just give more value, just give more value. But it's like, whenever I was like, what does that mean? Like, what do you mean give more value? Like, how do I determine what is value? How do I determine like any of that stuff? I don't know if that was just me, because like I said, that is a video idea that I'm wanting to potentially work on. I'm just trying to figure out like what the best way of conveying that information. And I don't know if maybe I'm just the one that was slow and didn't understand what value meant when I first got started.
No, I think that's definitely that's a really good question. I thought about it, but like not too much. But yeah, no, that's definitely a good question.
Can I chime in on that one?
Yeah.
So, and I think, because I know I was in this trap for a minute too, trying to understand what value was. And does value mean, I want to charge you less. That's my value. I'm going to charge you less. And that way you save money. There's value. But soon learned that value is not, value is not necessarily the dollar amount that you are or are not charging. Value is what you're able to provide, whether something tangible, intangible, a thought, an idea, a product that the recipient, the client, can utilize and somehow improves their life, improves their business, gives them value, quote unquote. So that value could be just something like you were talking about earlier today, or during this live, is that value could be that PDF that you get when you sign up for a mailing list. Because, dude, you know what? I never thought about the 5 things that I should not be doing as a business owner in the restaurant industry. This is the reason. As a matter of fact, I was just having these thoughts 2 weeks ago, and that's why I'm probably not getting as many clients as I want. That for me now is value. Value solves a problem. It overcomes an obstacle. It improves something. So there's that.
Yeah. Yeah. And like now, like to me, like, I mean, we do it all the time. Like I understand what value is, but I know like whenever I first started, like my first production company, I was like, oh, what does that mean? Because right, like to me, like it's like, oh, you hear Gary Vee, like, oh, just get more value, just get in. You hear like Grant Cardone or like all these other people, right? And I was like, what the crap does that mean? And like I said, now I know, like I understand it. So that was a big thing, is like I want to make sure that, so that's the thing, like I just didn't want to be like, am I the only person that was like not that smart back then? But granted, I still think that I have a lot to learn in a lot of things. But yeah, so like I said, you definitely said, getting clients. I know Black Magic Productions also said the same thing, is like the getting clients part. So I guess my question is that did you have anything on that, Rodney? I know that you were going to let him go first. So
as far as just things that I've struggled with or that we've had challenges with.
Yeah, like right now, like so that's the big thing.
I would say so. We've been blessed and fortunate. We've been getting some work. I think the challenge that we've probably had the most of is getting that the marketing side of it towards our actual niche. So that way we don't kind of get put into, what is it, the term, a pigeonhole, or put into a corner to where, because we've been getting revenue, right, and getting some income from doing these things, and people like what we do, then we start getting more of it, even though we don't want it, and that's not where we want to go. We're trying to go over here, and that's why we charge the dollar amount that we do, and that's why we pour so much into what we do. So that's probably been one of the challenges, just making sure that we get in the marketing out there, whether it's through Facebook ads, which we haven't done yet, or Google ads, which we haven't done yet, to get our name out there with the right folks and those higher ticket people, Fortune 500 and sort of types.
Okay. Yeah. So I would say it's more. Would you say it's more the attracting the clients, kind of getting clients into your ecosystem? It's not necessarily like once a client essentially signs, it's not like, okay, like how do I now sell this client? And would you say that it's both for you, Andre? Does that make sense? Either of you. I think you're muted.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I guess you could say it like that, but yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, my big thing is at least like working with different companies and just in general. Like I think that there's, in my opinion, there's two parts, right? So there's the marketing and advertising, which is the attracting the clients, getting people aware of what you do, that kind of thing, right? And then there's also the actual selling part, right? You actually have to like close that client, get the contract, do that kind of stuff. And I think that, at least in my opinion, it's twofold. Like both of them have to work together, right? Because you can get 10,000 people applying, submitting, doing all that stuff, but if you can't close any of those people, it doesn't matter how well your marketing and advertising is, right? But the same thing is like if you're really good at closing, but you don't have like the pipeline of people coming in, that doesn't help you either, right? So there's kind of a balance there. So I guess that's my thing, is I'm trying to like gauge, like, does it make sense to, like, are more people struggling in actually attracting the clients, right? Like bringing people in to your ecosystem and filling your pipeline, like getting them to book? Or is it actually, now that I have the client booked, how do I sell them? Or is it both, right? Because to me, like, that's an entire sales process, right? And actually, in my opinion, there's still also the back end. Like, right, once you have the client, how do you continue to keep them for a lot longer and whatnot? My thing is, I just want to make sure that we're creating something that is helping solve a problem and is not too overwhelming, right? Because I'm like, I can teach you the entire process, but that's a lot of effing stuff, right? Like, I mean, I could probably teach for 4 years of what a actual college would teach you, kind of thing. So I guess that's kind of like my big question, I guess.
For me personally, I would say it's more of the you already sold them, but it's how do you try and get more? So it's the second one, I guess.
Okay.
That's what I would say.
And then Rodney, you would say it's more of the first one.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be straight up and honest, just keeping it real, keeping it, as folks will say, keeping it 100. Is that I've got access. We both have access to some tools and educational materials that kind of walk you through on how to set it up. We just have not taken the time, and I admit I'm a little timid on the Facebook ad situation to kind of get it started. Like, once I can get in there and do one, I'll flow from there. But it's just a little intimidating. Like, even though I've got like the blueprint, it's like, okay, this looks a little scary. If I click this button, will it blow up and I never get access to my account again? So
yeah, and that's, in my opinion, that's probably the most difficult part. And granted, like, I can't speak to what courses or any of that kind of stuff that you have. Like I said, I don't know. I may have taken them. I have no earthly idea. I mean, I go through a lot of course material, a lot of things out there. and like I said, even if I feel like we already know it, I just like getting different people's opinions and stuff. Granted, a lot of the stuff that I know is because we do it literally every single day, kind of thing too. So, but granted, like I said, I was there too. Like back when we started in 2016, I had no earthly idea what Facebook or this or that or any of that stuff. What's going on? So, you know, all those kinds of things. But yeah, it's interesting. Like I said, for sure. And there's a lot of things out there that you can do. Yeah, a lot of things. I can't even remotely begin to explain all of the things, but yeah. So I'm just kind of curious. Like I said, this is something that we've kind of, at least us personally, in our company, we've kind of kicked around. We thought about doing it back in like 2017, and we put it on the back burner because it wasn't that big of a deal. But would you guys find it of value to have essentially like every single week trainings, right? Because essentially what we're looking at doing is something that we're loosely calling right now, it's called the Scary Good Business Advantage, where essentially every like once a week we'd get on a call, we'd get on training, it'd be like group, we'd have a specific thing. So for instance, if it was whatever, like let's say maybe a month or 2 months, we go through and I'm going to teach you, this is exactly everything that we know about Facebook advertising. I show you like, here's how you click the buttons, here's where you go to do the things, here's how you actually write your ad copy, here's like the type of ads that work, right? These are proven campaigns that we've run in multiple different kinds of industries and help you craft those things. And then we're also looking at being able to have like smaller like breakout sessions of working on those things together, helping you come up with that kind of stuff and just teaching that stuff. And it's not just, you know, Facebook advertising. It'd be like, you know, here's like, you know, if you guys want to learn email marketing, here's like best practices, here's things that we do, and actually sit down and like, you know, have an hour-long class of walking you through those things. Questions that you guys have, I can answer those questions. We can point you in the right direction. Like I said, it's something that we've been kicking around. Obviously, it's been brought more to our attention now because of like the pandemic, all of that kind of stuff, and right, just with the way that the industry is and people are kind of going, because of course it's just like anything. Like I think that if you're starting out doing it yourself, you want to make sure that you're getting off on the right foot. And then I know that eventually, because I mean we've had clients that we've kind of done this with more on a one-on-one basis, where we kind of teach them, we kind of coach them, and we do that along the way. And then once their business is making a certain amount of money and they just don't have time, then they hand off the advertising to us. And since we've already set it up and we already essentially teach you our frameworks, it's an easier transition than going and trying to hire somebody else and then going through all of their processes and that kind of stuff. So I'm curious, like I said, if we're going to do it, we'd probably go into a beta phase, but we're just still trying to gauge if it's even something that people are even interested in. So, like I said, it's if it's something that you guys are somewhat interested in, it's cursed allergies. But if it's something you guys are interested in, it's definitely something that we're trying to hash through a little bit more. Like I said, it's brought back up. So still kind of trying to work out what that may look like, but so yeah. I mean, I think I would really enjoy it because I love teaching advertising. So that's my whole thing. And granted, like I said, and really the big thing is we'd also be able to take you and show you exactly what we're doing with companies that are spending, you know, thousands of dollars a month in advertising or hundreds of thousands of dollars in advertising. And like you would be able to get those like insights into like, oh, this is how we went and created these kinds of ads. These are like So you don't have to kind of go through that trial and error process as much. So.
I mean, generally with everybody's business, we generally need to learn that marketing aspect anyway. So what you're trying to do is actually pretty good. So if you guys how to get into marketing and then like not have to start at the beginning, and we could start off actually running in the right direction, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and the other big thing is because I don't want to, because at least for me, I've kind of been going back and forth because I don't necessarily just want to teach just the advertising or just the marketing side, because I also want to teach the sales side as well. Like, right, like once you get the client in, okay, like how do we sell them? How do we like show value, as well as like processes, right? Like your back end process. Okay, like we have a client. How do we go through and like what are best ways to do onboarding? What are best ways to like retain a client, right? Because I think that that's the big thing is like, it's easy sometimes to get a client, but if that client only does one project and then vanishes forever, like to me, like I would much rather have one client and then be able to consistently do work with that client time and time again. And like for us as an agency, like, I don't know, like it was always surprising to me that most advertising agencies can only keep a client for 6 months or less. For us, like our average client that we had until like the pandemic was like 2.5 to 3 years, you know, and like for us, I'm like, that's really good, you know, so like obviously like kind of teaching some of those processes that we have, like teaching like some of the, that's why I wanted to keep it more like business and not just, you know, marketing and advertising, because to me, I'm like, it's good to learn like those things, but sometimes I'm like I said, you can have the best advertising in the world, but if you can't close the sale, it doesn't matter, right? Or you can close all of the sales you want, but if you don't have enough people to close, that doesn't help you either. And then the same thing is like if you have good marketing and advertising, you close the sale, but that client stays with you once. Well, what if we get them to buy from you 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, you know, or stay with you for, you know, 6 years, like, you know, because once you kind of know those things, your advertising gets a lot better because you can spend more money, right? Because if I am willing to spend $1,000, and I know that sounds scary to some people, if I'm willing to spend $1,000 to get a client and you're only willing to spend $10 to get a client, well, I'm going to get a lot more clients if I have the money, right? If I have the pipeline. But the thing is, like, I can't get a client for $1,000 and then do one project for $1,000 and then they never stay with me. But if they pay me $1,000 a month for 6 years, that's pretty dang good. You know, it's not. So that's kind of like at least my thinking behind it and kind of what I'm thinking. But I'm like, I don't know, right? You guys are kind of in that market, right? You guys have businesses, you kind of know what you're doing. It's not, and not saying that people that just started can't benefit from it, but it's definitely not like, right? Like I can't approach a company that already has a full-blown marketing department that's doing all the things. I mean, maybe they do it, I don't know. I'm not going to say that they won't, but that's not, at least in my mind, the fit for it. But anyway, I want to kind of just circle back. You guys have any other questions? I don't know. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff that we kind of talked about. If there's any other random questions that you have on any of the things, like I said, I can try and answer to the best of my ability on any of the things that you guys are facing right now, having problems with, that kind of stuff. So.
Got any recommendations on website design?
Well, the only thing that I can say is it depends on who and what kind of client you're going to attract. So,
I mean, right now I'm doing product photography with
okay.
focus on beverages.
Okay. Yeah, my big thing is I think that always like a more kind of like a minimalistic, clean design. My big thing is have really good images of what you do, right? Because to me, like, I would say, like, go look at Apple, like, look at their website, look at how clean, simple, that kind of stuff, because, like, in the product market, like, that's what people like, right? Like, if you have really, like, it's all about the image, it's all about, like, that kind of stuff. That's what I think. Granted, your copy is going to need to be good, like the words on the page, but that's always something that is always going to be changing. It's always going to be tweaked. It's always going to be improved on, because as you start working with more clients, and even whenever you get beta clients, like, my big thing is, I'm like, every single time, like, my big thing is, I'm like, so I have tons of these notebooks. I carry these notebooks all the time. My big thing is, anytime you go with a client, you meet with somebody, I guarantee you want to close more deals. Here's like one of the most simplest things you can do. Take a notebook. When you're meeting with a client, they start talking, be like, hold on, give me 1 second. That sounds important. Let me take a note of that. Pull out a notebook and start writing down what they say. I guarantee you'll close more sales, because one, nobody does that. And two, I can't remember everything. Like, I literally have stacks and stacks of these dang things. I have them sitting on my nightstand, so when I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with what I think is a brilliant idea, I write it down, because I'm not good at remembering things. So one is just write down everything, and in particularly listen to the words that they use. Because like I said, the big thing to me is, like, everyone's always like, oh, I want more customers. I want more customers. I want more customers. But being able to know exactly what they say, because, right, like, as product photography, maybe they don't need more customers. Maybe they need, I don't know, clear photos of whatever. Like I said, I can't speak exactly to what they want, but that's the thing, is, like, uncovering those things and then using what they say in the copy of your website, right? Because if they're talking about, like, I don't know, maybe they want high quality crystal, I don't know. Like I said, it's hard for me to just make something up, but whatever it is that they talk about, that's what your website needs to have. Those exact same little things. And then in tandem with, what we were talking about, is, like, the big thing is having that lead magnet. And essentially your lead magnet needs to be, and if you don't know what a lead magnet is, it's essentially some kind of piece of value. It's something that you give a potential client or somebody that is looking at your website, somebody that is interested in what you have, you give them that thing for free. So the examples that I gave earlier was, so Rodney, they do a lot of product photography. They do a lot of weddings. They do events, that kind of stuff. So, like, for weddings, I was like, okay, so if you were going after, like, the bride and groom, the people actually getting married, maybe your lead magnet needs to be after taking photos of 200,000 weddings, I've found these 5 common mistakes that brides make on their wedding day that have them regret XYZ, whatever, I don't know, right? So to me, that's something that they are going to absolutely want to give you their name and email for. So the same thing in the product photography space, it could be like, and this is all stuff that you have to kind of do research on. You kind of have to do, maybe it's like, this one specific product photography style actually increased website ROAS, right? So all of these terms are things that I know in, like, the e-commerce space, but, like, increased, or maybe increased average cart values by 92%, right? Because anybody looking for product photography, they probably are an e-commerce store. They're probably selling their products online, and they want to increase the amount of sales that each shopping cart has, right? So each customer spends. So those are all those things that you kind of have to, like, look at, like, what are those terminologies? What are those kind of things? Because, like, to me, like, if I say ROAS, do any of you know what that means? right? So ROAS is return on ad spend is essentially what it is. So like how much you get back on. So that's just essentially the term that a lot of marketing people use, right? So that's the thing. Like if I said that to you guys, that means absolutely nothing. But that's okay because you are, in this instance, you are not my target market. And I also want to repel people that don't know and aren't a good fit, right? So that's what that is. So that's why like your sales copy and that kind of stuff needs to have those types of terminology in them, right? So that's the big thing is figuring out that terminology, putting it in there and using it in your lead magnet, right? Because like if I read that and I'm like, yeah, like I'm an e-commerce store, we want to have good product images, we want to have these things, then yeah, like I need to get this thing. And that could be, you know, a PDF, it could be a video, it could be whatever you want it to be. And they just give you your name and email. That way you can continuously follow up with them with email marketing, right? And then maybe once they sign up, 24 hours from the time that they sign up, you send them another email saying, hey, you know, here are a few side-by-side comparisons of like what our clients' product photography looked like before, and here's what it looked like after they hired us, right? Because that's the thing is like comparison sales, right? Like that's why like weight loss uses it all the time. Like here's what they look like before they started taking this magic pill. Here's what they look like after, right? So that's the thing is like you can now start sending that in emails, and then you can even put in there like, right, like once you kind of have like case studies and that kind of stuff, you can see like, yeah, like here's what their image looked like before they were, you know, having, you know, they were only selling 6 of these products a month. And then after we changed out they got their product photography from us, now they're selling 600 of these, right? Here's a comparison, right? Here's a whatever. And I guarantee you continuously send them emails like that, it becomes very difficult for them not to hire you because every other product photography person out there is not doing that. They're not really doing any of that kind of stuff. And that's really how you win, because even if they go and they do price shopping, you're still showing them like we can do what we say. We can, and that's why like even when you do your beta clients and stuff, ask them those questions like, okay, like do you have like if you bought a video from somebody else, how did that perform? And then after you deliver that video to them for whatever, literally ask them after that, like how did the video you did perform? All of that stuff you need to be mentioning and telling potential clients, right? Because it's like, oh, like they did a video and it got 2 views. We did a video and it got 500 views. Even if it's something small like that, you still want to use those things, right? Those are all leverage that you have. Those are all things that help you close that deal, those sales, all of that stuff. Is that clear? Hopefully. So I knew I'd like throw out a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, it's clear. I was writing them down. But yeah, definitely the comparison thing. I could see like why a lot of weight companies use those.
Yeah, and like I said, you'd be surprised that like with just comparisons in general, there's a lot of companies that use them that aren't very like apparent, right? Like you see them and you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense, but it doesn't like jump out at you as like, oh, like the weight loss industry stuff does because they use it all the time. But like, you know, like website companies do it, hosting companies do it, like software companies do it, where they're like, here's us, here's our competitor, here's what we offer. Even whenever you do it in pricing, like if you've ever gone to like pricing, it's like, what's the difference between a free account versus a paid account? All of that is a comparison, even though it's not an image comparison, but like, how do you compare those things? Of course, you don't want to lie about the things, right? Like, I'm pretty sure all of you guys have morals and ethics and that kind of stuff. I just have to say that because there's always one person out there that's, yeah, see, Rodney's like, no. Yeah, well,
that's why I'm part of the hoodie gang. That's why. Yeah.
So, like I said, that's the the big thing there. But comparisons are one of those things. Like I said, so there's I don't know if you guys have ever heard of like cognitive biases. So there's supposedly like 27 of them. Essentially what it is it's subconscious, essentially like subconscious stimulus that persuades you to do the things that you do. Right. So the reason you buy certain things, the reason you wear the clothes that you wear, the place that you live, like all of those things, there's outside influences. They're always pushing you to do certain things. And like I said, comparison is one of those, right? There's a few different variations of comparison, right? There's like apples to apples comparison where you're comparing two identical things. And then there's, apples to oranges comparison, which is kind of a gray area, but that's also like one of those elements, right? So it's just like anything. Like if I told you like, hey, if you want to hire us to do, I don't know, like let's say that as like, you're going to hire us to do your marketing and advertising. Our starting cost is $1,500 a month. Right. And you're like, okay, like $1,500 a month. And I'm like, that doesn't even include advertising. Like, okay, well, that sounds like a lot of money. Well, I can be like, okay, well, like if you think about it, if you were to hire somebody, right, you would have to pay them whatever their wage is. Then you have to provide medical, you have to provide benefits, you have to provide all of that stuff. And even if, you are just paying somebody $1,500 a month, right, I'm like, right, I'm terrible at math, so I'd be like that. Our cost is $50 a day. At $50 a day, how much does like the new I don't know, the new Blackmagic cinema camera that just was announced? $50 is not really that much in comparison to the new Blackmagic camera. Now that's kind of like an apples to oranges comparison, but doing that is a form of influence, right? I'm comparing two things that have nothing to do with each other, but they kind of like I said, all of those you can use in persuasion. So that's just one out of the 27 that are out there. So I'm hoping sometime, I do want to do a series on it. It's just one of those that's sometimes not the easiest to do because it's talking about your subconscious, and a lot of people are like, oh, I make up my own mind and I'm not influenced by anything. And I'm like, right. that whatever you want to think, that's fine. But yeah, so it's interesting. Like I said, I know that I'm kind of going off on a little bit of a tangent there, but I just always find it super fascinating.
Trial.
So, but you guys, anybody else have any other questions on anything or any?
I definitely think that really helped a lot with the email marketing and everything like that. I always never knew like
Trial.
what do I say,
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely like that. Thank you for that.
Yeah, like I said, it's definitely something that I don't see a lot of companies. Granted, it's one of those that in my industry, like the marketing industry, I see it all the time, but it's because we're all marketers and we're all crazy people. So, but for like what I would say the average business, you just don't see it that often. And that's why the big thing is it's definitely going to put you above everybody else. And it does take a little bit of time. It does take a little bit of effort and that kind of stuff. And that's really the big thing is it's always surprising to me because companies, like we've worked with so many companies of all different sizes, And the thing is like the companies that are willing to put in the work, like actually do the stuff, they're the ones that see the most results. And it's not because, they're better or whatever. It's because they actually just do the things that they need to do, right? Like it's not like they didn't come up with this like new innovative whatever. Like it's just that they actually do those things, right? And it's just doing it step by step, going through and doing everything. Yeah, so that's a big thing. And it kind of reminds me of that quote. It's what is it? It's like rich people do the hard things to make their life easy, and poor people do the easy things to make their life hard.
I think
Mind
the one
blown.
thing that I
Wow.
do think about that part though, and I think I can see a lot of companies also feeling the same way, is like scaring away your already like clients with too much emails and knowing the limits of that stuff. Because yeah, you don't see a lot of companies do that, and I guess it's something that business owners wouldn't think of in the beginning. But it's like I don't want to scare away my potential clients. Like, yo, they just keep hitting me up, you know?
Yeah, and my thing is I'm like, it all comes down to like you got to test it. So like for us, like, which I'm kind of, for me, I'm not hesitant in doing it in the sense that of like bugging people. I'm more like, I'm kind of one of those people. I'm like, I want to do it, but it sounds like a lot of work. We're actually going to try doing daily emails. So we're going to be sending an email every single day to people that are on, like, granted, right now we're not doing a whole lot with email because we're revamping a lot of stuff. We're actually probably going to essentially start our email list from zero and really trying to do the cultivating of things because, like I said, I actually just went through an entire just email course and stuff, and it's so fascinating because the two guys that taught it, they're not marketers at all. They're funny enough, they're actually hypnotists. That's what they do for a living. Like they do like on stage and all that kind of stuff, but they knew a lot of psychology. And the thing is like a mentor of ours knows them, and he was like, this is probably the best email marketing like stuff I've ever seen. And he was like, I want you guys to teach this stuff. So like we went through, and they're like, we don't know anything about like this. They're like, this is just what works for us. And to me, like I was blown away at like just the process and like the way that they do their stuff, because they're like, we're just business owners. Like we're not big into the marketing thing. And that's the big thing to me is like sometimes I have to remind myself, like, I live in this industry. Like sometimes like you just get so like tunnel vision that sometimes you need to like widen what you kind of think of and what is appropriate and what is not. And that's why like the other thing to me is I'm like, I'm still on frickin' Domino's Pizza's email list, and they send me like emails every single day, and I still haven't unsubscribed, but I guarantee you when I think about pizza, they're the first ones I think of. So I'm like, dang, Domino's, you always hitting me up with those $5 specials. So, but I'm like, that's the thing, is it works. Like I think that because like what I talked about in the beginning with the I can't think of what I'm the lead magnet, is that it had coming up with a lead magnet that your customers can look at all the time and they can see all the time because your brand's going to be there. And I think that email marketing is the same thing. If you consistently show up, because right, like to me, I don't read every single email that Domino's sends me, but like when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh, Domino's, and I swipe it away, it still reinforces that that's Domino's, this is their brand, and it just reinforces your brand name. So when they think of a video production company or they think of whatever, they're like, oh, right, that company that I see all the time, that's the one that I'm going to remember. Not the one that I looked at 6 months ago that I looked at their website once, right? So.
Trial.
But like I said, if you guys don't have anything else, like I said, it is creeping into the late hours. We've been on for quite a while, like always.
And he was creeping, like scary creeping. Yeah.
I mean, like I said, it's Halloween every day at my house, so
I definitely do plan on rewatching the whole thing because I missed the beginning aspect of this. So
yeah, like I said, you'll definitely get a lot. If you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe. I am hoping to start putting out some more videos here soon. Like I said, it's been a crazy roller coaster of creating videos, but like I said, we do have quite a few videos on there. There's a lot of stuff. I highly recommend if you are new, you haven't really watched a lot of stuff, go through the 31 days of Scary Good Marketing. I put that out back in October, of course, for Halloween. You know, can't miss the Halloweens, but yeah, so it's literally 31 days of just a bunch of marketing tips, strategies, that kind of stuff. I know Rodney watched, I don't know if you watched all of it, but I know that you watched.
I haven't read through all of it yet, but I got halfway through, I think, to like between day 14 and day 16. But dude, I mean, everything from day one, I mean, that crap was invaluable information. Invaluable.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff. Like I said, my big thing is like what I always tell people is, even if you see a video or some kind of marketing thing that is not directly related to your industry, it never hurts to watch it, because it may switch something, or you may think of something a little bit differently. Like, I don't know how many times, like, you know, and my philosophy is I'm very much so a Renaissance type mindset of like, the more that you learn in all areas of your life, right? Always go and do things, right? Like me and Rodney were talking about earlier, is like, I'm trying to get into 3D animation. And to me, like, certain things about that, and like learning, even if it's like understanding a new process, any of that stuff, the way of thinking about a process, you may be able to take that and translate that to something else. Or, you know, like I'm in the process of learning the violin, you know, and like the things that I'm learning in how to play the violin are helping me in other areas of my business, even though you wouldn't think that. But to me, I'm always like, how do I extract something that's working really well, and how do we make that work for our business, right? Like if there's something that a restaurant is doing that's like working extremely well, how do I do that in my company? What can I do or make or change or adapt to that? Because one is like, what a restaurant is doing is definitely not what somebody is doing in my industry, right? And that's why I think, like, if you look at what is it, like Uber did that, right? They took an industry that was very stagnant, that had been around forever, right? Cabs, limos, all that kind of stuff. And they took a few other elements from other industries and they created something new, and look at where it got them, right? That's why I'm always looking at, like, I'm always willing to learn from anybody in anything, and looking at, right, like top businesses. Like I look at, like, what does McDonald's do? Like, obviously they're doing something right if they do $40 billion a year. I should not think that my company is better than McDonald's, right? Even though we don't sell the same thing, even though we don't have the whatever, but like understanding like their processes, like how do they come up with their processes? How do they train their employees? How do they like do automation? I can take those elements, and how do I put those into my business? How do I take what they do and do that kind of stuff? So that's just my philosophy, at least something that I think. And I don't think that there's enough people out there that think that, right? It's always like, this is what I do, this is all that I know, and that's it. And there's nothing wrong with that, except it becomes very difficult when something changes. You have so much more resistance to a lot of change. So hopefully that gives you a little insight into my crazy self, but and maybe a little bit different perspective in business. So, but like I said, if you guys don't have anything else, then we'll probably end it there. And like I said, if you guys want, I'm also debating on doing some of these lives on our channel. We'd probably do them on Fridays, is what I'm thinking. It probably won't go too late because I know, it's Friday, got to start the weekend, even though my weekend mainly consists of more work, but that's what I love. So, but like I said, if that's something you guys are interested in, let me know. Like I said, I'm in the Facebook group most of the time trying to answer questions. So just let me know.
The information too that you provided today. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but I appreciate it too. Just really good, insightful information, and I already subscribed to your channel. I already been watching you, of course, with combination of doing things with Ty already on the Flash Film Media side. So it's just good information everywhere it go, and of course, a lot of familiar faces that I normally see. For people I follow, that's on the Flash Film Media side.
Yeah, so I'm glad that you are at least getting something. That's my goal, is that you guys can at least get something tangible that you guys can go and work on, implement that kind of stuff. Like I said, I know that me and Ty have been kind of talking back and forth. We're looking at trying to figure out how to do something a little bit more collaboratively, in a sense. So like I said, you may start seeing a few things here shortly. Like I said, I know that with everything going on with the weather and all that craziness, everything's kind of up in the air now. But like I said, that's really our big goal. And I know, like, me and Ty, like I said, we've talked a lot, and we both have the same kind of philosophy. Is like, my big thing is like, and I know his big thing is like, just being able to help you guys as much as possible and like give you the information that we have. Because like I said, like, this marketing company is not the first company I've started. When I started, my first company was a production company, and I started that when I was a junior in high school. So like, I ran my production company for a really long time, then transitioned to a bunch of different things. So like, I know what it's like to start and go through that process and like understand those kinds of things. And to me, I'm like, like, obviously, like, the pandemic, I had, like, everybody, like, nobody knows what to do during these times and like that kind of stuff. But like I think that being able to like learn and come together and do that kind of stuff really just helps everybody, like, is my big thing. So
Did you change your job because it wasn't successful, or you just wanted to try something new?
No, like, to be honest, like, we still do a lot of video production work. The big thing is, so like, my wife, her background is in marketing and advertising. So we started the company. I did have a lot of clients ask, like, do we do marketing and advertising? Do we do marketing and advertising? And for the longest time, I just said no, and I would refer people over. And my big thing was, I was like, well, obviously I need to learn this marketing and advertising thing, because as a company, we have to market and advertise ourselves. Like, right. So like, that's the big thing. So, and just like anything, I was kind of, at the time, I went back and I worked a big corporate job. I worked for a really big name retailer that I won't mention because they're crazy. But I worked there. I did all of the management. I managed like 72 employees. I had all of that stuff. So like, I just got tired of the corporate world, and I was like, do I want to go back and do video production? And when I initially quit, that's what I was doing, is I was going to start another production company. But then I kept, remembering all these people talking about marketing and advertising. I was like, you know what? I would just want to try something new. Let me just dive headfirst in and learn as much as I can. And like I said, literally, I worked on the company. I quit my job and worked for 2 years. And actually, on the last month, I think it was in December of our second year, was whenever I got my first paycheck, which was the same amount as what I made every 2 weeks at my corporate job. So I literally just worked my butt off. And that was the big thing, is I was like, I have to make this work, because what I told people is, I was like, I am going to give it everything that I have, because I know that if I don't do this, even if I fail, that's okay. I can always go back. I can land on my feet. I can go and do something else. But if I never take the plunge in learning how to do this, starting another company, I will regret it the rest of my life. So that's literally what I did. Like I said, I dove into it, literally spent hours on end, going through courses, trainings, getting mentors, talking with people, other people in the industry, and literally just going in there and being like, okay, like this Facebook advertising is a thing. Like, let me go in here and like get into the accounts and like learn some of the stuff. And I kind of did some of that when I had the production company, but not as much. It wasn't really that big of a thing when I was originally doing it. But yeah, and that's pretty much how I still do it. I mean, like I said, I pretty much, like what I tell people, I look at probably more ads on Facebook than I do like family and friends posts. Like I'm like, family and friends posts, get that out of here. Where are these ads? Like I literally scroll through Facebook just to look at ads. Like I scroll through Instagram to look at ads. I scroll through Pinterest to look at ads. Like, and that's the thing is like, I just really fell in love with the process, like all of that stuff, and really psychology. Like once I got into it and reading a lot more about psychology, that kind of stuff, I think that if I was better at school, like could actually like do the school things, I think that I actually would have probably really enjoyed going into psychology, to be honest. Like I really enjoy a lot of that stuff and just understanding the way that the brain works. I do think that some of that comes down to being dyslexic. Like I've always had like 10,000 different tests and all kinds of crazy stuff, and trying to understand how to learn, understand my process and that kind of stuff. So like I said, I think that all of those kind of fell into that. But yeah, like I said, I just really fell in love with marketing and advertising. And like I said, I've been doing it since 2016. So, you know, and every day learning new things, you know, that's the big thing. Like what I tell people, I pretty much work 7 days a week, not because I have to, because I really enjoy doing it. So, you know, that's probably the long-winded answer, but yeah. And the one last thing that I will say though is it's kind of funny because right before the pandemic hit, I was actually looking at opening just a production company, where all I would do was the marketing and the sales side, and then we would hire and have the creative team that would go out and actually do the work. Because that's the thing is that I've learned over the years is like creative people are not the best at selling themselves, or not. And to me, like that's the part that I like the most. Not that I don't like doing the stuff, like I love doing, you know, all the crazy things, right? I used to be a makeup artist, so like all the crazy things I enjoy. But to me, like I really like the sales process is what I like. So and then the pandemic hit and I was like, okay, we're going to put this other business on the back burner. So we're starting another business. So like I said, I just like businesses and I like creating businesses. So and I said, depending on how the pandemic goes, we may pick up and do the production company again. It'll be completely separate of our marketing company. Just because, like I said, I like the sales process, and really what it would be is more like wedding videos. I will never shoot a wedding video in my life again, but we would do the sales process. So we would hire like the video team and that kind of stuff, like videographers, editors, and literally I'd be like, okay, here's this wedding, here's where you go, here's your paycheck. We do all the sales, you do all the shooting and editing. But that's on the back burner because, like I said, everything's still crazy and unsure of how that's going to turn out. But yeah, so
Quick question here too. I wanted to chime in. So you was mentioning on weddings. So I had a buddy of mine that's really getting off into to shooting them, and it's, you know, I do like a lot of reading in my spare time from you know, different niches. You know, of course, things with weddings, I've done them before. It's a fun, cool experience, but I know that's just not personally the thing for me. But what I came across was this interesting article is what some of these videographers are doing with their teams and what they do to surprise the bride and groom, which was pretty cool. And I passed it along to them. It's like, okay, what they do is that they build into their budget to where they're able to purchase pretty much an iPad, and then they give all the wedding footage and all that stuff on the iPad to the bride and groom as a surprise gift. And it just sort of brung stuff home for them. And I was like, wow, that's a great idea, because they're never going to know, number one, you built it into the budget for that. And, you know, it's a gift to them, but then it's giving them, you know, the most special day of their life included with all this footage on it.
Yeah, and it's funny that you bring that up, because that's actually, and I know that we've briefly talked about this a little bit, that's actually one of the ways that we go after like our Dream 100 or our big clients that we want. We'll actually purchase an iPad or whatever, shoot a video like this and be like, hey, you know, I'm Tim with with Scary Good Marketing, and, you know, kind of go through the thing and be like, we actually built out this entire ad campaign for you, and we want to run it for you. And we'll put that on an iPad, they open it up, they play the video. Because one is like, if I mail that to a company, the CEO is going to open, like, they're going to get it. And the thing is, like, if you send that to a company, granted, my thing is, I'm like, it needs to make sense, right? You don't want to send that to the barber shop down the street that's going to make you $100 off of a shoot. But, right, you want to do those things that, like, because one, I can guarantee you that's something that most of those companies have never got in their entire life, right? Like, if I sent you an iPad and I was like, hey, like, this is how I want to earn your business, I guarantee you we're going to get on a phone call. Like, it's going to be very difficult for you not to do that. So that's the thing, is I think you can do the same thing. It just depends on like how you do it. You can do it with smaller clients. Like, we've done a few where we have like wallets and stuff that we get like laser engraved and etched and stuff, and I'll send to a client and whatever. And like, hey, you know, like, I'm sending you a wallet because, you know, your pockets are going to be a lot fatter and you're going to need a second wallet for all the money we're going to bring you, or like whatever, right? You send that to somebody, like, that's going to stand out, right? That's something that people don't do, right? So these are all like things, granted, that's kind of like outbound strategies. We're working on, we have a few things that we're testing, getting ready to start testing. That will fall into like what you guys do as like ways to get those bigger clients. Because to me, the thing is, like, you can, not saying that you can't attract big clients, but the thing is, you need to always go and like try and get your foot in the door. Because, right, like, in my opinion, like, you know, a company that's like, you know, $1 billion company probably isn't going to know who I am, even if we grew to 1 million subscribers. Not every $1 billion company is going to know who we are. I need to go and create that conversation with them. So, like I said, I'm hoping at some point, once we kind of go through, because the big thing is a lot of the stuff that I talk about is stuff that we have done or works, or we've seen other big companies that have kind of done. But if there's something that doesn't work, I don't really teach it, because I'm like, why am I going to teach you something that doesn't work? You know, so I don't want to say a whole bunch of stuff, because I'm like, it's not proven yet. But that's something that we've done, we've tested. There's a few other people, and like you said in the article that you read, I think that's a fantastic idea. You know, in that kind of stuff, there's a lot of stuff that you can do. You know, like, and even for us, like, we were even looking at seeing if we can actually source like tablets and actually get tablets that have like our logo splash screen and have like our logos made in them, all that kind of stuff, without like just getting an iPad and doing whatever, like getting like actual product built. So I said, we do a lot of crazy stuff. So I said, a lot of the stuff you guys see is like that much in the grand scheme of things that are going on behind the scenes. Because, like I said, and I just like testing stuff and just trying stuff, because, like I said, to a degree, you never really know what's going to work. So
I appreciate the gem you dropped to a few moments ago about the alternate thing that you could ultimately do with the iPad as well. I mean, at the end of the day, if I am going to speak to a potential client, my big thing is already sort of researching them before I walk into the door, whether if it's looking at their website, social media pages and everything there first, and do the homework. And then if I decide to put, you know, some slides together of what this is why I did the research on. This is what I do and don't see. These are great things. These are some things that could need improvement. Then it can just sort of help me bring that home. So I appreciate the gesture and the information. It was great.
Yeah, and if any of you guys jump on any of our consulting, you'll see all the homework we do. So, as I said, I know that some of you guys can attest to that. So, but anyway, like I said, if there's nothing else, like I said, it is getting, we're gonna have to watch out with all the things. Once the moon comes out, I got to get off.
Thanks,
Wolf comes
man.
out. That's all. Gotta watch out for that beast inside.
Yeah, well, we're gonna let you go because we know we keep
Thank you for your time.
starting like new conversations.
Yeah, like I said, so obviously, like I said, I'm part of the gold member. So if you guys are in the gold member, I'll be there. Like I said, what I'm hoping is at some point, I'm not too sure, have to kind of figure out our schedule. I would like to kind of do some of these lives on our channel. They'd probably be, like I said, on Fridays though. So like I said, I'll post in the group, whatever we decide, that kind of stuff. Like I said, subscribe to the channel. At some point, I'm hoping I'm going to have some new videos coming out. I have I don't know, I think today alone, I probably shot 10 videos. So there's 10 more videos that need to be edited. So, and that's not including all the others that I have backlogged right now. So, but yeah, so other than that, like I said, there's like a lot of stuff we talked about in this video. So if you're just tuning in, make sure to go back, rewatch everything, mark it, put it as save for later, whatever you got to do in YouTube. But other than that, I'll let you guys go. Yeah, and like I said, just I'm in the Facebook group quite often, so you can see whatever there, and I try to answer all the questions as much as possible when I have some time. So, but other than that, thanks guys for jumping on. Hopefully you guys got at least one thing out of the video. So
I did. Thanks.
If not, then maybe I won't do it anymore. I don't know.
Stop it, Tim. That was great information.
I'll
Right,
just
great
disappear
info.
into the night, and But all right, take it easy, guys.
All right. Good night.
Everybody
Take care,
take care and
fellas.
be
Take
safe,
care.
man. I'll look you guys
Same
later.
to you.